flush from the pocket along the right hash, running room to the 20. Brady to the 15, to the 10, to the house with 1:53 to play. A 30-yard quarterback draw, and Brady Cook, playing his final game at Ferrario Field, has lifted Missouri into the lead with 1:53 to play.
How about that for senior night?
That's what it sounded like on the Tigers Radio Network on Saturday as the Missouri Tigers win once again against Arkansas. They call this a rivalry. I think it's got to be a little less one-sided for it to truly be a rivalry, though. Welcome back in. It is BK and Ferrario with Alex Ferrario and Tanner Hendrickson. I'm Brandon Kiley. Hope you had a fantastic extended Thanksgiving weekend. I certainly did, Alex. A lot of football, a lot of food, a lot of winning for the University of Missouri. Brady Cook's going to be remembered as a winner. That's ultimately going to be his legacy. Now, there will be those that continue to criticize the fact that he did not get it done enough this year. He won 9 games after winning 11 games a year ago. Pretty damn good, in my opinion. No, it's not perfect. Would have been better if they were able to finish against South Carolina. Would have been better if they remembered to play football against Texas A&M. Would have been better if he didn't get hurt, not once, but twice against Alabama. But ultimately, he's going to be remembered, I believe, by history fondly for his time at Mizzou. Here's what he had to say after the game on Saturday against Arkansas. As they came away with a win, finished 9-3. Here's Brady on his legacy.
5 years, Coach Drink came in, toxic culture, toxic team, not a lot of wins. And I was right there with him. And to see the culture he's built, the team he's built, to play under him, to be his starting quarterback for 3 years, and just to see how we've both grown and overcome so much, it's been really cool. And
I love the story of Brady Cook. This is a guy that wasn't even the top-rated recruit in his own recruiting class at Mizzou. Hometown kid, goes to the school that he always wanted to attend, starts out, and everybody wants to replace him. They go into the portal. They try to find somebody that will start over him. They tried Jaden Daniels. They tried the kid from Baylor. They tried like 4 different recruits coming out of the portal. They end up landing one. He loses the job to Brady Cook. Brady's okay that first year. They try it again in the next offseason. Sam Horn goes up against him. Remember that competition the first few games? Yeah, that went real well, didn't it?
Competition.
Brady wins it again. Yeah. He ends up having the great year last year, and then this year, battle-tested, goes through all the injuries, legit, real injuries this time around, and he leaves a winner. That's the way that I will remember Brady Cook's time at Mizzou. I will remember it as the time that Missouri stabilized itself as a program with Drinkwitz, Brady Cook, and yes, Luther Burden as well as the 3 figureheads of that stabilization. Alex, I've gone on for 2 minutes waxing poetically about our Tigers, though.
Calm down over here.
What did you think of the win on Saturday? Basically, more or less, the end of this era of Mizzou football. I'm not anticipating Burden's going to play in whatever bowl game they end up going to.
But it's family.
Yeah, I think everybody else is going to play.
Not at
but
Mizzou.
I don't think Burden will. How would you encapsulate this era of Mizzou football?
Man, I can't be a hypocrite because I've been the one that says, look, it's a disappointing season because the expectation was college football playoff bound this year. But it also can be in the same sentence a very good season for Mizzou. And I love the quote from Brady Cook on postgame where he said, look, he's like, my goal was to leave Mizzou in a better spot than where it was when I first started. And that's what any quarterback is when you get to college. You leave the program in a better spot than where it was before you got there. And you just went through it. It was not a good program prior to Brady Cook. And you left them in a spot that you can build off of it. You're going to have back-to-back seasons where you were ranked in the top 25. You hopefully, if you win the bowl game, back-to-back double-digit wins, although it's not in the regular season with that. But
doesn't matter. Counts.
Shouldn't count.
It's frustrating because I really thought this team had the opportunity to be a college football playoff team, and Drink's right. You get a stop against South Carolina, we might actually be talking about how there's a slight, but there's a chance.
Yep.
You don't get a stop. You're not prepared to play against Texas A&M, and this is the outcome. But I'm not going to look at this as a failure of a career at Mizzou for Brady Cook because I'm actually looking at Mizzou going north now rather than what it was prior to Brady Cook, where every season it was 6 wins. Maybe 7 if things were good. Ooh. But now you're realistically talking, if you can make the right adjustments, if you're Eli Drinkwitz with the team, you're talking about, once again, a double-digit win season.
Yeah, look, I agree that this season disappointing. And really, this is my first era of Mizzou football, right? Someone that's moved to St. Louis, has started with the Brady Cook and the Luther Burden and the Eli Drinkwitz era.
It's not what it's always like, just so you know.
It's not all good?
It's bad.
This is what you were telling me about, where it is bad. But with that, the reason I bring that up is because though I can say this season was disappointing, and some of that does fall on Brady Cook and Luther Burden and the offense as a whole, they're not the ones that lost the South Carolina game, though, by the way. The defense didn't do its job and get the final
Could
stop.
say the same thing in that Texas A&M game,
I
too.
wasn't going to bring it up, but yeah, that was bad by both ends of the
41 points
More
ain't
the
pretty.
defense. The defense completely gave up. They stopped pulling on the rope. The offense had a few good plays that circumstances went against them, a couple of questionable calls at best, and they lied down in that game as well. So, yeah, it's both sides, but the defense really killed them in that A&M game. And then the Alabama game is the one that I'll give him the mulligan for. Yeah. Brady gets hurt halfway through. It was really close when he goes down, and then Drew Pine just threw 100 interceptions.
Yeah, but I bring all those up because for me, this era, I think BK said it well. I think, Alex, you guys said it well. It not only stabilized things for Mizzou, but it brought relevancy. And I think that's what's most important in how Brady Cook and Luther Burden will be remembered. You know, they were a part of teams that got to the Cotton Bowl and beat a third-string quarterback at Ohio State. But you got to the Cotton Bowl, right? You have a double-digit win season, potentially another double-digit win season. And to Alex's point, now you're not just looking at Mizzou and saying, okay, I guess we're going back to 7 wins. We haven't, that was our one shot. No, I mean, maybe that happens, but you now look at Mizzou and say, hey, they can be players in the SEC. They can be a team that kind of is now on that kind of range of Ole Miss where it is, hey, there's going to be years where they're a 3-4 loss program, but there might be that year where they end up with only 2 losses and find themselves as a true team that can get themselves in that college football playoff conversation. So, yeah, though this year was disappointing, I don't think there's any way to sugarcoat this year. I think when you look at their tenure as a whole here at Mizzou, how it will be remembered, winner for Brady Cook. Burden probably deserves some of that as well. But I think it is, hey, they brought the program back from what was the dark ages, quote unquote, and hey, they're back to relevancy now here in the SEC.
Mizzou most winningest, the winningest quarterbacks at Mizzou of all time. Number 1, Chase Daniel, as you'd expect, 30 wins in his career at Mizzou.
Legend.
Number 2, in a tie right now, depending on what happens in the bowl game, Brad Smith and Brady Cook. Number 4, Phil Bradley. Number 5, Drew Lock with 21. Number 6, James Franklin with 20 wins in his career at Mizzou. Brady Cook, tied for second all time, winningest quarterback in the history of the University of Missouri. Not too bad, man. Pretty good for a kid that always wanted to go there. This was his dream. He ends up leaving Missouri with a 9-3 season in the regular season. And as you guys said, if they had finished that game against South Carolina, there's a real chance we're talking about them right now as being in the mix at a minimum for a potential playoff spot. What a ridiculous weekend this was in college football. Just patently absurd. You look up and down in some of the games that we were able to see, and it really all started on Friday night with that Georgia versus Georgia Tech game, going to 8 overtimes. These overtime rules have to be fixed.
Yeah,
we cannot continue to do this.
No.
And coaches.
No, that's ridiculous.
PSA for coaches. If you are unranked going up against a ranked opponent on the road as a significant underdog and you get to go second in overtime and the first team scores a touchdown and goes for the PAT, you go for 2 in that spot because in the second overtime you are required to do so. So at least this time, getting that extra 2-point conversion allows you to win the football game then and there. Georgia Tech opted to kick the point. They ended up losing in 8 overtimes against Georgia. But it started there. Georgia prevails. Whew, did they get a scare, though? It then continued all day Saturday. Ohio State drops a game once again at home against Michigan.
You hate to see it.
You end up with USC for a while pushing Notre Dame pretty good. Syracuse takes down Miami.
That was ugly.
42-38. For a while there, it looked like Tennessee was going to get a scare from Vanderbilt. Ultimately, Tennessee is able to prevail. South Carolina, good pick by T-Bone, takes down Clemson on the road. All day long. It was just haymaker after haymaker after haymaker. If you played a rivalry game and there was no brawl, it felt like you didn't actually have a real rivalry. That was fun to watch. Alex, how much did this weekend impact the college football playoff race in your mind?
I mean, it impacted it to the point that I think you're now going to be talking about maybe 3 teams that are going to be fighting for that final spot. I think a lot of these are locked down after this weekend in terms of the college playoff teams. I think you're talking about Clemson. I think you're talking about South Carolina. I think you're talking about Alabama. I think those are the 3 teams, and you could probably toss in South Carolina if you wanted, that we'll be talking about getting into the college football playoffs, to where last week I think we were still talking about like 10 teams that had a shot to get in. I think because of those haymakers that we saw and how vulnerable some of these quote-unquote top teams are in college football, I think that isolated the competition in terms of there's probably like 3 other teams that deserve to be college football.
So you guys tell me if you agree with these as I go along here. Yeah, if you disagree with anybody that I say, just say, nope, not in. I think these teams are locked in as of today to getting into the college football playoff. The Big Ten, I think there are 4 teams. It's Oregon.
Not in.
Sorry. Penn State. Ohio State, yes, despite the loss against Michigan, I believe they are locked in Indiana. I think those 4 teams are locked into the college football playoff. You guys agree?
I agree with those.
I agree.
In the SEC, I believe there are 3 teams that are currently locked into the college football playoff, regardless of what happens this weekend. Georgia, Texas, Tennessee. Do you guys agree with that?
Those are the 3 I had.
I think so. I don't think even if Georgia loses in the championship game, it knocks them out. But the ACC kind of ished the bed, and that's what led to this. But
Correct.
So, yeah, I think you're right. I think they're locked
Because
in.
Miami losing the Q's pretty much screwed
By the way,
up.
called that one.
Yeah.
100%. I believe SMU is locked into the college football playoff.
Agreed.
Regardless of what happens this weekend, they will, at a minimum, represent the ACC for 1. Notre Dame locked in.
Mm-hmm.
The group of 5 will get the Boise State versus UNLV winner. And then there's the Big 12 where it's Iowa State or Arizona State. So those are your teams right there. That is 11 teams already locked into the college football playoff. Clemson, if they beat SMU in the ACC championship game, will nail down the 12th. There is no conversation to be had. Beyond that, if Clemson loses, if SMU takes care of business there's 1 spot up for grabs, and we will be talking about Miami, Ole Miss, Alabama, and South Carolina. Do you guys believe there is anybody else that would have a legitimate gripe, a legitimate claim to be in the conversation for the playoff in this scenario that we're presenting, for that last spot, other than Miami, Ole Miss, Bama, South Carolina?
No, I don't. I think those are the teams that are in that conversation. And frankly, I think Alabama's going to have the upper hand if Clemson loses, but those would be the teams that I would have in it.
Yeah, I think it's down to those 3 teams, or 4 teams, if you're including Miami in that conversation. Miami, get the hell out of here.
I was going to say Miami's out.
I think they're
You think
out.
it's the 3 SEC teams?
I think so.
Okay.
I think, based on the way the committee has done things here, or the way they did things when it was 2-loss SEC versus 1-loss ACC, remember, they gave the advantage to the 2-loss SEC team. So my assumption is that they will say, hey, a 3-loss SEC team is better than a 2-loss ACC team. So I think Miami will fall out, and then it comes down to the conversation. I think where the real conversation is it South Carolina or is it Alabama? Because I think when you look at those conversations, because I think Ole Miss, they won, didn't really take care of business.
Beat South Carolina.
Yeah, that's where I think it becomes interesting. Because remember,
losses.
This is what we talked about last week. I said South Carolina has lost to Ole Miss and Alabama.
Yep.
Well, Alabama is ranked ahead of Ole Miss right now. And you can make an argument played a better football game than what Ole Miss did over the weekend against Mississippi State.
I think Bama's in.
I think Alabama's the one that gets in as well.
Yep.
And I think South Carolina, though they got that win, I said this last week, I think the breadcrumbs told you, hey, they needed Alabama and Ole Miss to lose to get into that final spot.
I think what this told you is that it's about the wins, not the losses.
Yeah.
Because Bama has the worst losses, objectively, of all of these teams. Their 2 losses were on the road against Vanderbilt. 3 losses, excuse me. On the road against Vanderbilt, on the road against Oklahoma, both of which are bad losses this year. And then on the road against Tennessee, a good loss, but that's the only one. South Carolina's losses on the season are LSU when their quarterback got hurt, and then Ole Miss and Alabama. Those are really good losses to have. Ole Miss this year. Kentucky, that's a tough one. Can't really.
Florida.
But then at LSU in overtime, and then at Florida. They care about the wins, man. That's what they're doing. They're telling you the quality of your win is more important than how disastrous potentially your losses are. So I think we're on the same page here. I think basically that last spot comes down to Alabama or Clemson. And other than that, our college football playoff is set going into this final weekend of the regular season.
Last week, we were like, there's 15 teams still alive.
Maybe there's movement to be had in this. Depending on who wins this weekend, buys will be secured, home field advantage will be secured, and we've seen at this point, home field advantage is a huge deal, especially around this time of the year. So there's still a lot to be played for at this time, but it's not quite, despite the chaos of this weekend, the actual field of 12 does not feel as chaotic today as it did this time last week.
No, and I think you would have had that opportunity of Miami taking care of business. Miami beat Syracuse. They're into the title game. Clemson beat South Carolina. Now you had that chaos potentially going into the championship weekend, and everything kind of fell into place.
People are saying on the text line, we got a few people pushing back against the idea that SMU is locked in. Do you guys, I think they're in no matter what. No matter what happens this weekend against SMU, I think they'll get in. Do you guys disagree with that? Do you think there's a chance of like a South Carolina, Alabama, Ole Miss, 2 of those 3 end up getting in instead of SMU?
I think it depends where the committee puts them tomorrow, because like they were 9 in the last ranking, which would seem to suggest a loss again was going to knock them out.
Sure.
If they are kind of in just the 8th spot, just say Miami drops down, Georgia, Tennessee move up, I think there might be an argument they fall out. Okay. I would personally put them in even if they lost the ACC championship game, though.
I think so, too. I think that would be docking them too much for playing the extra game. Personally.
Agreed.
All right, he's Alex. That's T-Bone on BK. Coming up in about 15 minutes, we will reveal our football pick'em. This is a big one. Final week of the month, which means one of us is going to end up getting punished. We'll reveal who that is in 15 minutes. You guys can get involved in the show. 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. YouTube chat is available for you. The Graveyard chat up and running at youtube.com/101ESPNSTL. But coming up next, Jordan Binnington's value on full display over the weekend. What does it tell us about the Blues and their prospects of getting into the playoffs this year? We'll talk about that next year on 101 ESPN.
Farabee to Konechny, driving the goal, save is made.
Oh, no!
Save! Binnington! Wide open net for Couturier. Binnington gets him with the glove while he's on his side.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Couturier thinks he's got all net. He shows patience. Jordan Binnington sticks his arm back, and not once does he give up on that puck and catches it in the leather. What a play by Binnington. That, folks, you're going to see for the next month on the highlights. I don't care which TV you watch. That is unbelievable.
What a treat it was to hear Kelly Chase on the broadcast Saturday night as the Blues end up going to overtime, but dropping a game against the Flyers here in St. Louis. A really good environment for that one. Overall, fun game to watch. Unfortunately, only able to get the 1 point in it with Alex T-Bone on BK. Alex, Jordan Binnington's value was on full display in that one. The Blues gave up way too many chances, including odd man rushes going in the other direction. I think it was 13 high danger chances in the game, second most they've allowed in any individual game so far this season. And Benner stood on his head, including that unbelievable save that kept the Blues in it. What did we learn about the value that Benner provides to this team, not just for the regular season, but if they are able to make a push to potentially get into the playoffs, Alex?
He's everything. I mean, it's the difference between a retool and a rebuild, in my opinion, because of a guy like Jordan Binnington. Most of the time, teams that don't have a goaltender, that are younger, that are gaining assets and trying to get back into the winning culture, it takes them 4 or 5 years. I mean, look at the Buffalo Sabres. The Buffalo Sabres drafted Jack Eichel, Sam Reinhart. They had Taylor Hall. They trade for Tage Thompson. And how many playoff games have they appeared in? 0. Yeah. You know why? Because they've had goaltenders like Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen and Carter Hutton. No disrespect to Carter Hutton.
Yeah.
You don't have a goaltender, you don't have a winning record. And I know the Blues are a couple of games below it right now, but you've avoided a 4 or 5 year darkness period with Jordan Binnington. And what it means for their playoff hopes, I thought Jim Montgomery said it best postgame. When you got a goaltender, it allows the warts in the games for you to figure it out. It allows us time to lock down our defensive mindset, and then when we do, life gets a lot easier for Jordan Binnington. I would much rather this team be giving up 13 high-danger scoring chances in a game against the Philadelphia Flyers in December than I would in March, because March is when you got to play perfect hockey if you want to get to the playoffs. You don't need to play perfect hockey right now because Binnington's engaged. And when he's engaged, your team can go out there and try and take some chances while they fine-tune other areas of their game.
Yeah, and to your point on that, on defense there, when you have a goalie like Jordan Binnington, whether it is in December or it ends up being in a playoff game where things do get a little tighter defensively, having a good goaltender like Benner is like having a great defense in the NFL, right? To where if your offense is scuffling a little bit, your goalie can buy you some time, or your defense is scuffling in this case. The goalie can buy you some time to really settle things down, make a couple of saves, and also change momentum in a game too. I mean, it didn't really happen in that game on Saturday where he makes that spectacular save, as you heard, but those moments can occur, and I think that you're really starting to...
That
exactly. It buys them a point. It didn't turn momentum in terms of, hey, the Blues really turned it on after that moment.
Well, they tied the game after that.
They did in the third period later on. But, yeah, you're right. I mean, it bought them enough for a point. And, like, he, to me, is the identity of the Blues, right? To me, they don't really have an identity offensively. Maybe they are more of a defensive-minded team, but we've still seen at times they get a little loose defensively. Goaltending's our identity, and that is Jordan Binnington. He's the guy for me that if this team makes the playoffs, it's on the back of Jordan Binnington. If they're going to pull off a surprise in the playoffs by winning a round or maybe doing more, it's on the back of Jordan Binnington.
He is Ryan Helsley, JoJo Romero, and Andrew Kittredge in one person.
Oh, no, those guys kind of fell
didn't
apart
do well.
down
That
the
team missed the
stretch.
playoffs.
Yeah, and that's what they're trying to do right now. Like, the Cardinals had some guys that came together and had decent seasons this year. Like, it wasn't a totally lost year. Mason Wynn was really good for them. Brendan Donovan, when healthy, was a pretty darn good player for them this year. They had too many other areas where they were deficient. But they had a really good dynamite locked down back end of the bullpen. And that allowed them, especially in the first half of the season, to find ways to win games that they had no business winning, right? That's why the run differential was so bad for them. They'd get blown out, not put those 3 into the game. And then when they used them, they would be winning these one-run games. That's what Jordan Binnington is for the St. Louis Blues right now, where he's keeping you in these things. There are times where it gets ugly, and that's why they have a minus 16 goal differential on the season, which right now in the Western Conference is the 3rd worst in the conference. And yet, as of today, you're 4 points back in the points column to be in the postseason. That is Jordan Binnington right there. What he's been able to do for you, that's all season long. But that game specifically, it just reminded me, if this team were to find a way to get in, I don't know that they will, but if they were to find a way to get in, they'd have a shot. In any series against any teams, you've at least got a puncher's chance, and the guy that gives you that is Jordan Binnington because of saves like that.
Yeah. I think there's only a handful of goalies that are in the NHL right now that I could look at and say he could steal you a playoff series. Like, that's the guy that I want in between the pipes. Like, if you're the Edmonton Oilers right now and you're getting into the playoffs, you want Jordan Binnington on your roster. I think Andrei Vasilevsky is one of the other guys that there are very few goaltenders in the NHL that a team would look at and they say, that guy's going to win us the series. And that's how I feel about Jordan Binnington. And once again, that's how you avoid rebuilds, because you don't have to worry about
in that category now after what you saw from him last year?
Yeah, probably. I think Bobrovsky, I think Vasilevsky is in that conversation, and I would put Jordan Binnington. I don't know how many others are in there, though.
I would say, despite him having not the same amount of success as he had early on in his career, Sturkin, to me, would still be in that category where, like, in any individual series, I'd be like, that guy could steal it for you.
He could.
You know,
I've seen the ups and downs of that roller coaster, though. Now, in the playoffs is a different animal, and I think that's why you put Jordan Binnington in that conversation.
I would put Hellebuyck in that conversation as well.
See, I would not put Hellebuyck in that conversation. Not in the playoffs. He chokes. He's a choke artist in the playoffs. He gets you to the playoffs. He's doing exactly what he's doing right now, but when you get to the playoffs, I'm not going to bank on it because they rely on him for 70-plus games.
All right, somebody on the text line, 314-399-9646 is the Your Comfort Service text line from the 314. BK, you're wrong about everything, but I remember you saying once upon a time that you'd give open Gateway Arch to get Matvey Mishkov.
Matvey Michkov.
Thank you.
5th time's the charm.
Me and Curbs both struggle. You were right for once on that. I kid. Curbs, I kid.
He's on an airplane right now.
I apologize. That's on me. I got to do better.
Name of the podcast today. BK hits a low blow.
But trying to get Matvey Mishkov. Yeah, that guy's amazing. That guy's unbelievable.
The biggest problem
he's better than Bedard.
Oh yeah, he's better than Bedard. He's better than Celebrini. The biggest problem for
Bedard would be third on that list for me. By the way.
Yeah, he would.
Yeah.
I think he'd be third. I think he'd probably be third on Chicago's list on that conversation. Yeah. The problem with Michkov was never his talent. The problem with Michkov was, like, is he going to come over from Russia?
And the answer was always going to be yes.
Exactly.
It's ridiculous that this was such a big conversation.
And it's amazing. There's going to be, what did he got taken 8th, 7th that year?
Yeah.
6th, I think. Maybe 6th. Something.
Only
like
thing
that.
I remember about him being drafted was him being, like, left outside his hotel with his suitcase.
T-Bone and I, 7th selection.
Yeah.
It looked like the Flyers forgot him.
T-Bone and I were walking back to our room, and Michkov's just standing outside of his hotel. Be like, wait a minute. But there will be 6 other teams that be like, what the hell did we just do? Because this guy is going to be Vladimir Tarasenko-esque when the Blues saw him come over to North America and play hockey that first season.
He's very
Wouldn't have
good.
given up the arch, though, man. That's how you get free agents to come to St. Louis.
19 points in 23 games. He has a 21% shooting percentage.
Did you see?
And you can see why.
Yeah.
Did you see that pass that he was able to get onto Tippett's stick? I don't know how he did that.
You know the most wild part when I watched that game and I saw that pass and we've seen the shot was no. My first thought was, I can't believe Tortorella put this guy in the press box earlier this year.
Tortorella's got to make sure.
He's got
to lay the hammer down, you know?
Okay.
Make sure
Apparently the guys responded well to it. I don't know.
I'd say so. They said, I was reading a piece, I think it was by San Filippo. I don't remember who wrote it, but they said, like, Matvey Michkov was one of the most, like, competitive players in that locker room. They got a ping pong table in Philly. And Michkov, they were in a ping pong tournament, and he lost in the championship game and did not speak to the guy that he lost to for 5 days.
That's
Nice.
T-Bone.
Yeah.
That is totally T-Bone. But that's the competitiveness of that dude. He probably hasn't spoken to Tortorella since he was scratched.
I love it. Apparently, Drew Brees used to be that guy. Drew Brees in the Saints locker room, they would just come up with games because Drew Brees was such a fierce competitor. He's like, I can't lose at anything. And he was always, everybody has this guy in their life that's like secretly good at everything, and you don't totally understand why.
Oh, T-Bone's not that.
Oh.
My buddy Nathan Schnabel was this guy. Like, you play Foursquare, this guy's the best at it. You play Knockout, this guy's the best at it. Whatever you did at recess, he was amazing.
Just quote like your best friend from elementary school.
Yeah, man, he was awesome. He's Alex's T-Bone on BK.
Foursquare. You do that power bomb style. It's just like,
you know what I'm talking about, though. Everybody's got that friend.
Yeah, sure,
That's just
I agree.
amazing at every kind of game. Like, ping pong.
I'm just baffled he brought up Foursquare of any sport. I forgot all about
knockout,
Foursquare until it was just brought up.
Foosball, whatever it is that you play, whatever recreational style game.
Mine's Beerio Kart.
Beerio Kart.
What? That is the opposite of what I'm talking about.
No. There's talent that goes into Beerio Kart.
Yeah.
Coming up next,
Crush you guys.
our final football pick'em reveal. I think Alex is excited about this. We'll do it next here on 101 ESPN. Alex, the college football playoff field is wide open. We know most of the teams that are going to get in, but who's going to win it? If I bet over on Circa on the team that I think is going to win, I'm going to win the most money possible. They recommend shop around, check out FanDuel, check out DraftKings, see what odds they have. They're going to beat them over at Circa Sports in Illinois. Texas right now, plus 475. You bet on them to win the title over on Circa. If you make the exact same bet on FanDuel, Alex, you're winning less money. It's 4-1 odds. Tennessee, 25-1 on Circa, 16-1 on FanDuel. Notre Dame, 10-1 on Circa, 8-1 over on FanDuel. My personal favorite here, Indiana, 60-1 odds on Circa, 40-1 over on FanDuel. This is why we bet with Circa.
This is why you need to compare those lines. We love them because they're so upfront about it. They say go check those odds out on other sports betting apps. They know you'll come back, whether it's those future large market bets or those tight money line splits. The best part is they don't limit people based off of their winnings over at Circa Sports Illinois. So download the app today. Get those futures out there for the college football playoffs. If you or someone you know may have a problem with gambling, call 1-800-GAMBLER or text ILGAMB to 833-234.
Tanner Hendrickson here. They Sports Center update driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Auto. Plex Blues lost to the Flyers over the weekend, 3-2 in overtime. So get ready to head on a West Coast trip. They will be at the Jets tomorrow night. We'll have pregame coverage starting at 6 o'clock with Alex Ferrario and Joey Vitale. Then Joey will join Chris Garber for Puck Drop at 7. And tonight here on 101 ESPN, Monday Night Football for you as the Broncos take on the Browns. We'll have pregame coverage starting at 6:30. This portion update is driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. See them at Londoff.com. Chevy, together we drive. Are you kidding me?
A little bit of news to pass along from the NFL for today. Tests have confirmed Saints tight end Taysom Hill out for the rest of the season with his knee injury as expected. It has also been reported that Christian McCaffrey has a PCL injury, and he's potentially out for the rest of the season. So those are your two big news updates in the NFL. With Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. Speaking of football, though, over the weekend, we had our Pick'em Challenge revealed. Each of us select 3 games going into the weekend. It was a long, extended week of football for us to be able to select from this past weekend, and it was the final week of our Pick'em Challenge for the month of November, so it was a big one. A lot on the line. T-Bone was well ahead in this one, so we'll go ahead and get his picks first, and then we'll go through what Alex and I had. We were separated by just 1 point, the two of us, Alex, to see who's going to be punished this month. T-Bone got things started for us on the college football side of things.
My 1 point play, I think South Carolina is a better football team than Clemson. I think they will cover. I think they will win outright. So give me South Carolina plus 2.5 as they go on the road to take on Clemson.
Time for Sellers. Eludes the pressure. There he goes. Lenora Sellers again to the end zone. He made it. South Carolina takes the lead.
Nice hit by you, T-Bone. I was a little skeptical just because they were on the road. I thought South Carolina was a better team on the road. I didn't know if I trusted it. Dude, they've got the better quarterback.
Dude,
Lenora Sellers is a stud.
That drive down the field at the end of the game was impressive.
Same thing they did against Mizzou.
Mm-hmm.
Even if they were struggling at times in either of those two games, Sellers comes through in those big moments. That dude ran for $165 on the ground. He's a problem for the rest of the SEC, and he's getting better as the season has gone along. South Carolina is a team to monitor next year.
Yeah, they're going to be a fun team to watch in the SEC because you're right. He's getting better as he goes along, and he's just going to add to the passing element of his game, too. And even then, he looked pretty good at that element as well in that Clemson game. Boys, I told you, take South Carolina, better team.
All right, so you got the first one down. Let's see how you did on your NFL pick this week.
We had a conversation on Monday of, hey, what was one of the biggest surprises? And I said, Bryce Young looked like a real quarterback. I think that reverts back this week. I think Carolina's all excited. Give me the Bucks minus 5.5 as they go to Carolina. I think they win this one easily.
It's a line that just scares the hell out of me because I just don't know what the Panthers are right now.
Young has time, and he can run, throws for the end zone. Thielen has it. It's a touchdown, Panthers. They've got the lead with 30 seconds to go.
Bucks did end up winning that one in overtime, 26-23.
Barely.
Probably the game of the day, honestly.
Yeah.
It wasn't anticipated to be that going in, but a really fun game. Is Bryce Young legit, guys? Are you starting to buy in? I know that's 2 bad defenses he's done it against, at least in terms of the secondary, but he's looking really good.
He looks confident. I'm not buying in yet, though.
Okay.
I need to see it against not a playoff caliber, but a competitive team. I know Tampa is, but show me against
Kansas City.
A competitive team.
Yeah, real team.
Yeah.
What
Kansas City just do? I forgot.
They won. Philly's coming up next.
By 2 against Aiden O'Connell.
They won. I don't ask anything further. Yeah. They won the football game.
I'm starting to doubt your team.
They play against Philly on the road this week.
Yeah, show me against that.
We're about to find out how real it is. But he
learn today.
If I'm a Panthers fan, I have so much more confidence today than I did 3 weeks ago, where I think there's at least an out here where he might be a franchise quarterback. I don't know what that means. He might be like Baker Mayfield level franchise quarterback, but I would take that at this point if I'm him.
All you needed was just a little bit of the red rocket to come in and just make people upset,
And then crash the car.
Just stir some things up.
So that's not a hit for T-Bone, but a 1-1 start. How'd you do in your other college football pick this week?
this program used to be one that would always hang around. They were like a 9-win team. You know, they were business in the front, party in the back with a nice little mullet going on with Gundy at Oklahoma State, home of the Cowboys. And, well, just like the actual Cowboys in Dallas, this team stinks. And they are taking on Colorado, who still has stuff to play for this weekend. Colorado, give me them, minus 16.5.
Up top into the end zone. Caught. How did he make that one? Travis Hunter. Third touchdown today.
I wanted to do this bet so bad after the dud that Colorado had the previous, but I don't trust myself with college football. So
Yeah, I just didn't. I didn't know if they were going to be all in on playing this game. It didn't matter. Oklahoma State was all out on playing this football game.
They didn't care.
And Travis Hunter won the Heisman this weekend.
Yeah, he had
that's
something
what
to play for.
Yeah, he won the Heisman. 1,100 receiving yards, 14 receiving touchdowns on the season, added another one for good measure on the ground. And then as a defensive player, 11 passes deflected, a fumble, and 4 interceptions on the season. That's just a ridiculous year. Two-way player. There weren't any quarterbacks that were overwhelming this year. And Jeanty, while still amazing, didn't quite have the same finish to the season as we did to start. Travis Hunter won the Heisman. Congratulations to him. Congratulations to T-Bone on a 2-1 week and winning this month.
Yeah, once
Pick 'em
again.
challenge.
I think I'm 3-0. I think I've won all 3 months.
18 points, 9-3 overall this month. T-Bone is on quite the heater, especially when he's picking on the college football side of things. All right, Alex, we're going to go back and forth on our picks from the week, all right?
Sure.
We're going to start with Alex's 1-point play in the NFL.
This is going to be one of those Philadelphia Eagles to where it's like, oh, shoot, this team might actually be good. And the Ravens continue to give up a ton of passing yards. So Baltimore's defense in the secondary might allow Jalen Hurts to have a little success. So Eagles +3, my 1-point play.
Saquon. Oh, here he goes. Barkley at the 10, the 5, and the touchdown.
Score was closer than the game was. Eagles, from start to finish, were the clear-cut better team. That being said, not like they put up crazy yardage totals.
No.
Their offense didn't do a ton, but they were the better team in this one, Alex.
Yeah, they were. I mean, Saquon is starting to really, he's not going to win it, but that guy is just more and more showing me that he should be in these MVP conversations, like surpassing Lamar Jackson in a game like that, to where it's like, that dude's more of the MVP for Philly than Lamar is for Baltimore.
I don't want to hear the Ravens discussed in the same light as the Chiefs or the Bills or the Lions or the Eagles. They're not on that tier, guys. I'm sorry. You saw it on display in that game. Lamar takes way too many bad sacks. Way too many. And they just kill these drives. Lamar's interception total, I get it. He's thrown 3 this year. 29 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. That's amazing. And Lamar is going to go down as an all-time great quarterback. He is Michael Vick with a better arm. Like that's what we're witnessing right now in terms of who he is as a player. But he has 7 fumbles on the season. He gets sacked at a rate in these big games that is astronomical. And it takes his team out of these drives. And then you add on top of that the fact that they can't trust their kicker anymore. Ravens aren't in the same category.
No. I'm done buying into the Ravens doing anything in this postseason. Lamar Jackson's inability to protect the football just in the regular season, but wait till you get to the postseason. No, I'm done with it.
All right, so that's your 1-point play. My 1-point play was on the college football side of things. T-Bone was nervous about this pick. Illinois is a 7.5-point favorite on the road at Northwestern. Northwestern is horrible, man. One of my fiends this week is betting on teams that I trust, that have something to play for, even if it is pride. I like the Illini to win big, multiple scores against Northwestern on the road.
Lockery again on the ground, a huge haul. Third touchdown of the day for Aiden Lockery.
10-point win. That's multiple scores up at Wrigley. Good win for the Illini. T-Bone, congratulations on your 9-win season, and congratulations to me for getting my 1-point play.
Yeah, more importantly, the 9-win season for the Illini. Brett Bielema, hey, I think that's the best coaching job I've seen him have at Illinois. That better than the 2 years ago team, because I don't think this team was as good as that team 2 years ago, and he was able to win 9 games. And that game, I said I was worried about it. Northwestern hung around a little bit more than I was anticipating.
All right, Alex, we both hit our 1-point play. So how'd you do on your 2-point play sticking in the NFL?
The Falcons are a joke. You want to know why I know that? Because I saw them get shellacked by Bo Nix and the Denver Broncos. They have not been able to get to the quarterback. I think they have 10 sacks this season, which is the last in the league. This is going to be a Justin Herbert show, so I love the Chargers -2.
Cousins. And it is
intercepted. This could go all the way. It's gone. Still, you can kiss him goodbye. Touchdown.
Alex, I still can't quite figure out how the Falcons lost this game. Other than that was it. That pick six.
Terrible.
Yeah,
Because what did it?
Awful.
Because the Chargers finished with 10 first downs in the game. You mentioned how the Falcons don't have a pass rush. Well, they sacked in this game Justin Herbert 5 times. Yeah. The Chargers finished with 180 total yards in the game. The Falcons doubled them up with 350 yards in the game. Reading this is like Mad Libs to figure out what happened, but it was Kirk Cousins finding a way to lose it with all those stupid interceptions. And the Chargers just doing enough to find a way to win.
That's
it's a weird game,
It's
man.
called pure luck for Ferrario, because I was watching that, and I was watching just Bijan Robinson and Kirk Cousins in the first half. I'm like, cool, I'm going to lose this one. And then they get the sack, and I'm like, cool, stop opening my mouth for football picks. But thank God for the Chargers defense.
Dude, the interceptions were horrific. Just absolutely
Also
terrible.
why I don't trust Kirk Cousins.
All right, well, you got your 2-point play.
Yeah.
I've got to keep pace.
Feeling good.
I went back to the college football side of things, T-Bone. I am going with Indiana minus 28 points against Purdue. Indiana has everything to play for this week. It is their last opportunity to show the committee we're a real team. Purdue's horrific, dude. They're thinking about if their coach is getting fired after this game more than they're thinking about what's going to happen if they win it. Indiana minus 28. They win huge going away against Purdue.
Even Jackson, the quarterback. Oh, there he goes. And there it is. Touchdown. And they're on their way to Route 66 to nothing.
Yeah, they got there. 66-0 was the final score in what Ryan Walters called after the game the worst offensive performance he's ever seen. When you say that, pretty good chance of getting fired after the game, and that is exactly what happened as Purdue fires Ryan Walters. They go 1-11 on the season.
I'm going to start picking college football teams that are just bad that last week of the season, because it seems like those are easy points.
They were easy
Pick
points.
against them. The ones that have given up, the NFL, it's the same thing, dude. By the end of the year, the teams that have completely given up, hell, the Jets, we'll get into that.
They didn't give up. They fought. And then they gave up.
I was about to say, I don't know, man. All right.
I know we're there.
So we're still even here, Alex.
Yeah, this is not a fun pace.
Let's see what happened with your 3-point play in the NFL.
I'm going to be sitting fat and happy at about 3 o'clock in the afternoon on Thursday, boys, because I'm taking the Lions minus 9.5.
Wow.
I think this one's going to be easy. I'm going to let Dan Campbell take care of me on Thanksgiving Day.
No, this is disaster in the making here. You're going to have to do something when it comes down to this play. Incomplete, and the game is over. Completely botched at the end by the Bears.
Only botched because they were within 3 points at the end of that game. It was enough to get Matt Eberflus fired. It was enough to get Jalen Johnson to speak to the team and say, I'm going to let you finish, to Matt Eberflus right after the game. Eberflus was then finished with his coaching tenure
At least
in
you got
Chicago.
to do one more press conference.
Yeah, that's fun. Got to work on those, I guess.
Detroit wins by 3, but that was a very close game. Alex, not the way that you wanted
I
that
wasn't
one to go.
sitting fat nor happy. I didn't even get to enjoy my salami sandwich on Thanksgiving.
tough.
2 moments really pissed me off on that. One, Dan Campbell going for the field goal when he was in the red zone rather than going for it. Like, the dude's always aggressive, but it's 16-0 or 13-0. He's like, no, let's just kick the field goal. And then that stupid throw that Caleb Williams dropped on the secondary with Detroit in the third quarter.
Caleb Williams had a good game.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, he was
Caleb Williams is a really good quarterback, and I will hear no slander against him. That guy's going to be good, but that coach
Is bad.
was so bad. And I saw some of the worst coaching this weekend that we've ever seen in the NFL. I mean, just horrific decisions left and right. That was right up there. That was the worst that we saw over the course of the weekend. The Raiders were right up there as well, but yikes. Yeah, the Bears deserve to lose that one. All right, my 3-point play to win me the week, Alex, was on the NFL slate and also on Thanksgiving Day. Tua Tagovailoa, Tyreek Hill, the Dolphins coming up to Green Bay in Lambeau at night when it's going to be like 25 degrees outside. Dude, I cannot believe that I am alone taking this game. Packers win this one by 10. They end up feeling good about themselves after the game. The Dolphins are left wondering, what could have been this season. Green Bay minus the 3.5 points at home in a cold game against the Dolphins.
3rd and 2 for Green Bay. Fake to Jacobs. It's Reed. First down. Reed. Touchdown for the second time on this Thanksgiving night. Seconds are served.
Attaboy. Attaboy. Not getting punished.
Not only did I avoid punishment, we go 3-0. Sweep the week. 6 points for your boy BK. 15 points over the course of this month. That's a 7-5 record. I finished with 15. T-Bone has 18. Alex has 11. You did go 6-6. Unfortunately, those 3-point plays are killing Alex right now. Alex will be punished for the month of November. Alex, how you feeling, buddy?
I can't be upset because regardless if I would have got the Lions, you went 3-0, so I would have lost.
Right.
So the moment the Lions lost, I knew it was over for me because there was no chance of beating BK. So once again, I was not fat or happy.
T-Bone texted us about our updated standings, and Alex was like, yeah, man, I lost.
Yeah, T-Bone's like, ooh, I'm officially safe for punishment. I'm like, dude.
I didn't realize he had Packers on Thursday night.
Yeah.
Well, it didn't matter. Lions and Bears, I was done.
At least I didn't text you in the moment and say, hey, my Thanksgiving started off fat and happy because I hit a 4-leg parlay on that Bears game with Bears plus the points.
There you go. T-Bone did say, I went back and listened to that this morning. T-Bone did say in that clip he was going to take the Bears side of things instead of the Lions. So,
and I did it, and I won money on it.
That's Alex. He's T-Bone. I'm BK. Alex loses the Pick'em Challenge for this month. We will continue this upcoming week on Friday, giving you our picks for the week with the conference championships, and then we got the NFL slate. T-Bone's about to run out of opportunities here, though. December's going to be a little tougher for your boy.
Yeah.
Because college football is few and far between, and we know T-Bone doesn't watch any of the bowl games, so he's going to be having some slim pickings when it comes to his picks starting this month.
I'm not scared of him,
and he's been bragging about how good he's been. When your little sexy college football picks are gone.
Uh-oh, things are going to get interesting. Coming up next, 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service X line for questions and answers here on 101 ESPN. All right, 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line for questions and answers. Also, the YouTube chat is available for you at youtube.com/101ESPNSTL. Bill Marsh over in the YouTube chat said BK pulled a 3-0 week out of his you-know-what, and then said, I wonder how his fast lane pick'em is. 14 out of 15, boys.
He's good in that one.
It's the lines that screw me up. If you just said, hey, pick these games straight up, I'm okay with that. It's the lines that they make me overthink things.
Yeah. Because it's like all of mine. I'm picking winners. It's these lines that just... I try and keep them close other than that Lions one, but typically the close ones burn me, and the big ones are the ones that I get, but I go the other side to keep it close.
And now that we're in a spot in the season where we know a decent amount about these teams, you can see kind of matchup-wise how you expect things to go. I'm all right with that. It's the lines that screw me up, which is ultimately all that matters because that's how you can win the money. All right, 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line for questions and answers from the 314. Guys, are we 100% certain that if Georgia loses in the SEC championship game, they would still be a lock to make the college football playoff? I think there would just have to be so many different things that happen for them to end up missing. Like, you'd need Clemson to win, first of all. That would have to be the starting point, because that would get the ACC potentially to have Clemson and SMU over Georgia. And even then, man, it's tough. Like, is Georgia falling behind Alabama from this week? I don't see any scenario where that happens, right?
I mean, I think we'll get the breadcrumbs laid out tomorrow when they release this, because Georgia does not hold, if you want to call it a tiebreaker, with Alabama because they lost.
Yeah, I was going to say.
And that's why
they do have the quality victories over Alabama because they beat Texas, they beat Tennessee, and they ended up beating Clemson as well. So you've got 3 big-time wins on your resume.
Yeah, they got 2 top 10 wins, and Alabama's got 1.
And it's against Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I would think that they're safe, but it'll be interesting because they'll have the same amount of losses. They'll both be at 3. Now, a little unfair to punish Georgia in my mind for playing the extra game. But I think it'll be interesting to see like what they do with South Carolina, because there's an argument to be mad that South Carolina's got better resume than Alabama and Ole Miss, yet they fell behind them in the previous rankings.
All right, 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line from the 618. Guys, did Perunovic not do enough to stay in the lineup over Kessel and probably Joseph as well, who, in their opinion, from the 618, has not played well lately at all?
Yeah, so I didn't do the game Saturday. Grant filled in for me because I had some family stuff. But I was a little surprised that they went P.O. Joseph over Scott Perunovic, mostly for how confident he was playing. Now, my only thought process with that is Perunovic, although he has played on that third pair, you want a little size against Philadelphia rather than the offensive mindset, because that is a fast team, and that's a team that's not afraid to go to the front of the net. So would you rather have a 5'10" defenseman or a 6'3" defenseman? And I'd go the 6'3", but man, I would not have taken Scott Perunovic out of that game or scratched him from that game. I would have kept playing Scott Perunovic. The dude's played confidently. He's played the best of Perunovic, P.O. Joseph, and Kessel. My expectation is he'll be back in the lineup tomorrow against Winnipeg.
He's Alex. That's T-Bone on BK. In 15 minutes, we're going to get into some NFL quick hitters, including answering a question that did come in on the text line. Guys, do you think that the San Francisco 49ers have seen their winning window close with this Christian McCaffrey injury? We'll get into that coming up in about 15 minutes. Coming up next, there's an update on Nolan Arenado coming from a differing team's perspective. We'll let you hear that coming up next here on 101 ESPN. Alongside Alex Ferrario and Tanner Hendrickson, I'm Brandon Kiley. Alex, we're going to have this, it seems like regularly now, as the world turns for Nolan Arenado. This comes from Randy Miller of NJ.com, who was on WFAN over the weekend. Quote, one guy that I could see as a possibility for the Yankees is Nolan Arenado from St. Louis. He continues, I think the Cardinals are trying to trade him. St. Louis would have to pick up some of the money, and maybe the Yankees would have to deal some of their prospects. I keep hearing it's going to be either the Yankees or the Dodgers for Arenado. I think he's a West Coast guy that would prefer to go to the Dodgers, and I think the Dodgers want him, end quote. He then goes on to say, like, hey, I think the Yankees would likely have to trade some of their young pitching. Guess who he brought up when he brought up their young pitching? Take a guess.
I'll go with the one Bobby Miller.
No, for the Yankees.
Oh, Yankees.
Clark
Schmidt.
Yeah, that's exactly what he brought up, which I found to be hilarious.
Not getting Clark Schmidt.
But he brought up, the Yankees really need a third baseman. They're probably going to move Jazz Chisholm back to second base. He does not believe that the Yankees will be able to bring back Juan Soto. And in that scenario, they're going to use that chunk of money to add a third baseman, some relievers, potentially another bat in there as well, like an Anthony Santander. So he thinks they're going to go in that direction. Reason why I wanted to bring this up, Alex, is because we've heard this from the Cardinals side of things. We've heard this from the national perspective. This is a Yankees beat writer who is now saying, yeah, there's some real buzz that the Yankees are a potential landing spot for Nolan Arenado. And he's hearing on that end as well, the Dodgers are another team that is very, legitimately intrigued by the idea of adding Nolan Arenado. Whether we think these teams should be interested in him or not important. It's whether they are that's important. And it sounds like that is indeed the case. We've said this a few times. I think between the Yankees, the Dodgers, the Houston Astros, if Bregman ends up leaving, there has been another piece on the Astros from a beat writer down there that, hey, Arenado makes a ton of sense for them. Trading for or signing Willie Adames is another option for them. Like, they could potentially go in a couple of different directions. The Mariners are in serious need of a third baseman as well. Alec Boehm is going to be the other contender here. I think Arenado's getting dealt. There was a post by Nolan Arenado on Instagram this weekend. I don't know if you guys saw it.
Yeah, here we go. Let's get into the tinfoil.
Yeah,
I wonder where he learned that from.
He's going through this like Winter Wonderland type of thing.
That's nice.
And the song that was playing while you saw it on his story was Dodger Blue. Found that to be really interesting.
He's
Maybe
going to the Dodgers now.
There.
He was in L.A. just a couple weeks ago.
Moral of the story, Randy Miller of NJ.com, who covers the Yankees for a living, believes that the Yankees would be interested in Nolan Arenado. Alex, what are you making of kind of summing up some of these reports that we've seen lately?
I mean, look, we did this on the coaching side of thing with the Blues. When there's smoke, there's fire, and there's a lot of smoke coming from the Cardinals' third base position right now. I still find myself in the camp of I'll believe it when I see it, just because I feel like this is a very difficult trade to pull off in terms of money tied to it and Arenado having to be okay with where he's going and John Mozeliak, although I know it's just PR speak, but getting the return that you feel you deserve on a Nolan Arenado, there's just a lot of hoops to jump through if you're wanting to trade this type of player. But I can't deny when beat writers start jumping, like this isn't, no disrespect, JP, but this isn't our boy Morosi just throwing things out there like, oh, Arenado's going to get traded and then nothing else. This is a beat writer. And so where there's smoke, there's fire. It does feel like this is probably at the top of the priority list for the Cardinals. If this is going to get done, my guess is it's going to happen around those winter meetings and it's going to happen pretty quick.
Yeah, I still continue to lean more and more and more towards the side of, hey, he probably will be traded. Like, I now think it's like 65, 70% that I think he is going to be dealt. I think what you're seeing is teams are laying out their kind of plan B, C, D as to what happens with Juan Soto, where he goes. Bregman's another guy, for example. If maybe Adames jumps ship early and signs somewhere, like, you're seeing that he clearly belongs in some of these teams' alternate plans from what their ideal offseason holds. And if you're the Cardinals, I mean, you've brought this up before, BK. It makes sense now of the parting of ways with Nolan Arenado because of the at-bats that you get at third base. It's not whether or not you believe he is going to bounce back or not, or, hey, we need a star in our lineup. Hey, you're in a retool, man. And when it comes down to a retool, do I want more at-bats for Nolan Arenado, who is potentially on the decline or has really shown signs of decline, could be going further in that direction, or do I want to get like a Nolan Gorman or a Brendan Donovan at-bats? And the answer is that one when you're in a retool. So things are starting to align in favor for the St. Louis Cardinals. I will be fascinated to know how much money they're willing to eat on a contract like that, what they are in search for in return for this, because Clark Schmidt, Major League ready pitcher, kind of as a number 4, though, that would feel like a weird piece to be thrown in if that's what the Cardinals were seeking. But I'm open-minded to whatever it is they're looking to get in return for him and how much money they're going to have to eat to make it work.
The reason I wouldn't hate Clark Schmidt is, A, because it would be me being right again, which you guys know I'm always rooting for that.
Maybe that's just why I don't want it.
Now I'm rooting against it.
More importantly, though, in this scenario,
It's cold in New York, Nolan.
he's 20. He's 29 years old. He's not a free agent until 2028 at a minimum. That's a really solid guy to throw into your rotation, and he's a trade chip. Like, if that guy, because last year he had a breakout season before getting hurt, had a 2.80 RA, and the peripheral said, this is pretty real. Like, he's actually changed some stuff, and he looks like a legit mid-rotation starter. Now, the injuries are also real, and you have to take that into account. No guarantee he gets back to being that pitcher for you in the future. But if he does, okay, either A, this is somebody you build around, put him into the middle of your rotation, and you've got a cheap, cost-controlled starting pitcher that you've now acquired for a guy that you didn't want to be here anymore, or B, you trade him. And now this is another chip that we can throw into the mix for something else this offseason. Hell, maybe you trade for Clark Schmidt and then flip him even prior to the start of next year. That's also a scenario that you could see. Regardless, he's somebody that has real value. And he has value at the major league level because he's already done it, as opposed to some of the starting pitching prospects that you could potentially add. All that is potential. You never know if that guy's ever going to become what Clark Schmidt already is, and Schmidt might just be a really good reliever at the major league level. That's also possible for him. So regardless of what you view as the future, or even if it's not Clark Schmidt, that's the kind of return I could see them targeting in a Nolan Arenado deal. You mentioned the Mariners as well. Like, that's another team that has 100,000 young arms. The Cardinals just hired the former Mariners pitching coordinator. I've got to imagine that guy's going to have a little bit of say if the Cardinals were like, hey, which of these young arms do you think is the best to target in their system, or a guy that's already at the major league level? He could say, hey, here's kind of what I think about them, what you've seen from them. Here's where I think there's still some upside available to you. The Cardinals are starting to pull from good organizations with interesting ideas to where I think they're going to end up coming out on this, and we're going to say, even if underwhelmed by the overall return for Arenado, Cardinals did the right thing here by moving on from him, and I do think that the Cardinals will be moving on from Nolan Arenado at some point this offseason.
Yeah, if anything, I could trust this team a lot more because you're backing up what you've been saying. In the past, they'll sit there and say, like, hey, we're going to go a youth movement. We're going to really focus on developing our younger players, and Nolan Arenado and Paul Goldschmidt would have been back. Now they're saying this, and they're not bringing back Paul Goldschmidt. You're trying actively to trade Nolan Arenado. Why? Because Nolan Gorman gets more at-bats. Because Thomas Ajayci gets more at-bats. Why am I blanking on the other guy? Yeah, Alec Burleson as well. Like, you're getting all of these guys more at-bats. You're backing up what you've been saying, which now finally there's a blueprint in place that I can actually trust.
It starts to become a little easier to understand. This is the direction they're going. I see it. I get it. And whether you agree with it or not, man, I just want to know that they have a plan. And it has felt far too often in the past like this is a team that's just kind of meandering in the wilderness, and it doesn't feel like there's a clear and coherent plan in place to be able to get to wherever the destination is. Not at all times.
We wanted innings.
From the 636, guys, I actually... That was the one thing that I did. It was very clear what their plan was, even if I disagreed with it. I was curious, can this work in the modern game?
The answer?
At least they had a plan. It failed. Somebody from the 636 says, guys, the Red Sox are also apparently in on this. According to their beat writer, they have a good shot at it because they'll give up some young players that Chaim Bloom drafted and believed in as well. Sure, there's another team that you could throw into the mix. There seems to be 6 or 7 legitimate options for Arenado. It's possible 2 or 3 of them come up with a real trade offer for Arenado, and then it just comes down to him. Where do you want to go? And he's ultimately going to be the one that has to say because of that full no trade clause. Coming up at 1 o'clock, we're going to be joined by Mike Liut, former Blues goalie, Jordan Binnington's agent. Binnington was able to pass him to become the winningest goalie in the history of the St. Louis Blues organization. We'll talk to Mike Liut about that. Here's some stories from him about Jordan Binnington's career here in St. Louis as well. That's coming up at 1 o'clock. But coming up next, let's dive into some NFL quick hitters, including, have we seen the end of this 49ers winning window? We'll talk about that next year on 101 ESPN.
Alex Ferrario with you to talk about my friends at Ted Drew's. This is not just about the frozen custard, although it's famous and it is delicious. But now is the time of the year to get to Ted Drew's famous frozen custard because the Christmas trees are officially here. The tree lot is open, the parking lot at Ted Drew's famous frozen custard off of Chippewa, where you can walk through, you can enjoy the environment. They've got a wide selection of fragrant firs, pine trees available. You've got large trees over 8 feet. They got the exclusive Dottie trees, which is named in honor of Ted's wife. And you can also check out the holiday greenery, including beautiful wreaths, handmade bows, and pine roping, too. All of that is available for you to build those family traditions. Go out there, get your tree, tie it to the top of the roof with the kids, with the family, so that you could do it every single season at Ted Drew's. While you're there, there's a limited time offer that ends at the end of this month. Buy 3 quarts of Ted Drew's famous frozen custard, and you get a jumbo container of toppings for free. So create those holiday traditions now at Ted Drew's off of Chippewa. Ted Drew's, it really is good guys and gals.
All right, let's dive into some NFL quick hitters with Alex and T-Bone. I'm BK. Alex, let's start with this. We got a text on this, and it's something that I wanted to talk about anyways as well. Have we officially closed the window on the 49ers as a championship contending team with this core group of players? They've had their season from hell. Christian McCaffrey, it sounds like, is probably going to miss the rest of the year. They're already without Brandon Ayuk. Debo has not looked like himself all year long. Brock Purdy is right now playing through some sort of an injury. Travarius Ward has dealt with some tragedy in his own life with his daughter, and so he has missed a few games. They've just had a ton of injuries this year that they've tried to overcome. They're 5-7, closer to a top 10 pick than a playoff spot right now. Feels like this year at a minimum is over for them. But is the window closed, Alex, in your opinion?
I don't think the window's closed. I'd give them one more year because they've got one more year with Deebo Samuel and George Kittle and a couple of other pieces. And when those contracts come up, because you just signed Brandon Ayuk, that's when the window's really going to close, because I don't know how you're going to be able to keep affording all of these guys. I'm less confident, though, that they can get it done next year because I haven't seen – I just don't think Brock Purdy's been very good. And I think a And some of that might just be the weapons. I mean, you haven't had Christian McCaffrey an awful lot. Brandon Ayuk hasn't been there. Deebo Samuel hasn't been there. Like, you've been banged up. But, man, I just have not felt like that's a quarterback that can carry a team through success. So I'm not ready to write him off yet because they've still got a core group of these guys next year. But next year might be your final hurrah if you want to try and win anything.
Yeah, I think it's over. I think it's over. This year, I think this core group can't get you to the promised land anymore. Maybe they can get you to the playoffs. I don't think they're ever a team now that you're going to look at and go, yeah, this team can compete with the Detroit Lions or the Philadelphia Phillies, who are younger, more talented teams. Like, they're getting old, and they're getting old fast. And in the NFL, you really get old fast. Deebo does not look good. It's not shocking that some of these guys are starting to deal with injuries. A running back dealing with injuries? Oh, shocker. And especially someone like McCaffrey who dealt with that in Carolina. Who knows how Ayuk's going to look coming off of a major knee injury. So, yeah, I think this version of the 49ers is done. I think they will maybe be a playoff caliber team. I don't think they're what we saw just last year where it was, hey, this team's getting to the Super Bowl and can compete with the best of the best.
That's where I'm at. They might be able to retool it. They might be able to find a way to flip some things, and maybe you end up with a couple of really shrewd free agent signings this offseason, and then there's a new crop of players that 2 years from now becomes the identity of who the 49ers are. I could see that. The Rams did that, right? Like, they had one group of players that became a real contender, and then another group that might not be a championship contending team, but became really good nonetheless. We could see something like that with the 49ers. They've got a coach that I trust. I like their quarterback more than it feels like most do right now. I think he's like the 15th best guy in the league. Could you do with him in San Francisco, what the Detroit Lions have now done with Jared Goff? I could see that because you've got the coach, you've got a system in place. I like it. I just don't think that you can do it anymore with this core group of players. I think this is it with Deebo. I think Deebo's gone next year. And Brandon Ayuk's coming back from a serious injury. We don't know when he's going to be back to 100%. My guess is 2026, not next year, but the year after when he's back to 100%. And that defense has not been very good this season. Once again, it's been 2 years now since we've seen them be a dominant unit on that side of the ball. I think the 49ers, this group, I think it's over for them as a core group of individuals to win a championship. All right, next thing up here as we go through some NFL quick hitters. The Chiefs stunk on Friday. There's no way around it. Like, they won. Nobody felt good about it, including the players. You could see in their body language after the game, they were furious with the way that game went. And yet I still think they're one of the two best teams in the AFC. It's them and the Bills. Yep. Right now at the top of the AFC. I totally get it if you have the Bills above them. They beat them head-to-head. They've looked like the better team over the last month. There was once upon a time that people tried to convince us that the Ravens were in that category. I am no longer willing to have that conversation, but if it's not them, who is currently the third best team in the AFC, gentlemen? Pittsburgh, Houston, the Chargers, the Ravens.
I think I would say the
Dolphins.
Chargers. No, not the Dolphins. No, they can't play in the cold, man.
Will that be a problem?
Yeah, that's a little bit of a problem once you hit February. I would say the Chargers. And I understand people are going to say it's the Steelers. Russell Wilson had another great week. I can't bank on that quarterback. And if I'm going to look at a team, I look at two things, their quarterback and their defense. And Pittsburgh's had a good defense all season long. Their quarterback, I still just don't trust. Justin Herbert's had his ups and downs, but their defense has been rock solid from start to finish. And when J.K. Dobbins is healthy, they've got at least an offense that can stay in the game with anybody. So I would probably put the Chargers.
I think I'd go Pittsburgh. And I hate watching Pittsburgh football. Let's just be clear. I hate watching the Steelers. Not a fun product to watch.
Sorry, Kerry.
Sorry, Kerry.
Kerry, tell Mike to build a better football team, please.
Damn.
Jesus.
I think they're the third best team in the AFC, and I think that tells you more about the AFC than it does about the Steelers. But I think they've got the defense that can cause havoc, and this week was a weird week. They gave up a ton of points, but Cincinnati's offense has played pretty well. But typically the defense is really good, and as we saw this week with Russ can pick apart a bad defense still. I don't know if he's the quarterback that really lifts your ceiling, but when you go against a bad defense and a bad secondary, a.k.a. the Chiefs secondary, he might be able to pick you apart. So I think it's the Pittsburgh Steelers.
They are a terrible matchup for the Chiefs. An absolute nightmare matchup for the Chiefs. Chiefs have problems at offensive tackle. They've got one of the best pass rushes in the NFL. Chiefs have problems with outside corners. They've got a couple of dudes on the outside, especially George Pickens, who's an absolute maniac and loses his mind 7 times a game, but is also really freaking talented and can beat you over the top. They've got a good tight end in Pat Freiermuth as well. You had and a pretty good ground game with guys that can catch the ball through the air at running back. Those are like the elements that you want. They're like the Denver Broncos if the Broncos were a little better. Like a little more talented version of the Denver Broncos, basically, is who the Pittsburgh Steelers are right now. And the Broncos gave the Chiefs serious issues. I think one of the Chiefs, the Bills, or the Steelers will be representing the AFC in the Super Bowl this year.
I don't know if I would go as far as to say they won't make the Super Bowl. I don't think this Chiefs team can win a Super Bowl. I think what you're seeing last year, they could protect Mahomes a little better, though he didn't have the wide receivers, and I thought that was going to be an issue. You know, the one time I saw the Chiefs lose a Super Bowl was the year they couldn't protect Patrick Mahomes. And what happened? Tampa Bay and Tom Brady got the best of them. Whether this team doesn't make the Super Bowl, I think minimum it's AFC Championship game for them because they'll find ways to win. I don't think they can win the third straight, get the three-peat, because I just don't think they can protect Mahomes long enough. Because when you get him uncomfortable, why is it that the Raiders are always the team that give the Kansas City Chiefs fits? Because Max Crosby's always sitting in Patrick Mahomes' lap.
You can sleep. I'm not going to do that. I've done that too many times with the Chiefs and sat there and said, no. I mean, the team that could beat them, the Bills. And that's why I really hope the AFC Championship game comes down to Kansas City versus Buffalo, because that's going to be a hell of a matchup. That's the team that can beat them. Otherwise, I'm not picking any other team against Patrick Mahomes and that Chiefs team.
All right, last thing here for some NFL quick hitters. Breaking news from Pete Thamel, and it's news we all knew was coming. Pete Thamel of ESPN.com reporting that Missouri star wide receiver Luther Burden tells ESPN that he is officially entering the NFL draft. Mel Kiper has him ranked as the number 19 overall player. Luther Burden told Pete Thamel, quote, "We're just getting started," end quote.
Would have been better if he said, "I'm coming."
It'd be nice if he started, this year. Burden wasn't very good this year, fellas.
Burden had really good moments this year. I would say it was an uneven season for him.
676 receiving yards.
I think a lot of that is because of the quarterback play. I'm a defender of Brady Cook. Brady Cook had a bad season. With his arm.
I just don't know if he's the 19th best player in the draft.
True.
That's my biggest thing.
It's not a good draft, dude.
No, it's not.
We're watching college football. You guys can see it. The elite talent is not there this year the way that it was last year.
I just don't know if after he gets selected, I'm going to be looking at that and being like, oh, damn.
You put him on the 49ers, he replaces what you got out of Debo this year and does it better. This version of Debo.
Oh, well, I can name a lot of wide receivers that could do
this version of
better than this version of Debo.
If you put Burden into the right situation, I think next year he can be a 600-yard receiver, which is pretty good for a rookie. I think that guy is just an absolute nightmare as somebody put him in Washington's offense. Let him be their number 2 wide receiver playing with Jaden Daniels. I think he could do some real damage there.
Over under 1 ejection next year. I'd go over.
He needs to get that under control.
Yeah, I thought he was going to get himself ejected.
Oh, man. Look, George Pickens has made a career out of it.
Yeah, he's not that. He's not a problem child. Like everything I've heard about him in the locker room is like great teammate, no issues whatsoever there. His temper gets the best of him at times in the game.
They won't take advantage of that in the NFL.
No, for sure. And that's the problem. It takes him out of the game mentally. That's the biggest issue.
It'll be fine.
Mike
Liut needs to adjust the time with us a little bit, so he's next.
Coming up in 15 minutes, we're going to dive into the junk drawer. Mike Liut is going to talk to us about Jordan Binnington breaking his record of the all-time winningest goalie in the history of the St. Louis Blues. Mike Liut joins us next here on 101 ESPN.
Taryn Hendrickson here, the Sports Center update driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. Blues off today. They'll be back in action as they hit the road as they visit the Winnipeg Jets tomorrow night. We'll have pregame coverage starting at 6 o'clock with Alex Ferrario and Joey Vitale. Then Joey will join Chris Garber for Puck Drop at 7. And tonight here on 101 ESPN, Monday Night Football for you as the Broncos take on the Browns. We'll have pregame coverage starting at 6:30. This Sports Center update is joined by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. See them at Londoff.com. Chevy, together we drive. Are you kidding me?
Farabee to Konechny, driving the goal, save is made.
Oh, no!
Save! Binnington! Wide open net for Couturier. Binnington gets him with the glove while he's on his side.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Couturier thinks he's got all net. He shows patience. Jordan Binnington sticks his arm back, and not once does he give up on that puck. And catches it in the leather. What a play by Binnington. That, folks, you're going to see for the next month on the highlights. I don't care which TV you watch. That is unbelievable.
That's what it sounded like right here in your home of the Blues, 101 ESPN over the weekend as Jordan Binnington puts together another highlight reel save for him. He ended up basically earning them the point against the Philadelphia Flyers. But last week against the New Jersey Devils, he was able to become the winningest goalie in the history of the St. Louis Blues. And we've been waiting to be able to catch up with Mike Liut, former Blues goalie, Jordan Binnington's agent as well. Mike Liut previously held the record for the winningest goalie here in St. Louis. He joins us now via the Callier and Thompson hotline. Mike, thanks so much for joining us today here on the show, man. I've got to imagine there's some pride that goes into this, being able to watch Jordan Binnington as he continues to rack up the wins here in St. Louis.
Well, we feel, we're playing a role, a small role, but, happy for him. Certainly deserving. Records are set, and they're set in different eras, and they're going to get broken, and the game is moving forward. So it's a great move in the game, and happy to see him do it. I mean, that's I guess better him than somebody else, right?
Yeah, it works out well for you, Mike. What I find so fascinating with Jordan Binnington, Mike, and you've been somebody who has been with him throughout his time as a professional hockey player, was that 2018-19 season. Not so much when he got called up and won the Stanley Cup, but it was prior to that in terms of being in the AHL, kind of getting pushed down the depth chart, potentially going to the ECHL. He goes to another organization's minor league team. What were those few seasons like for Jordan Binnington's development?
Well, players are always, sometimes they push too hard to get to that next level. I'm not sure that was the case with Jordan. His first 2 years were progressive. Started in the East Coast League, second year in the American League, had a very successful playoff run for the American League. The next year, he's in a battle with Phoenix Copley. And when you put, for me personally, I like to see, there's a queue set up where, there's somebody's in the American League is going to be the starter. Somebody's a younger guy coming up. Maybe they're only going to be a couple of years apart, but, and then that starter is going to get his crack at playing in the NHL, right? So you set it up where it's a replacement, and that didn't happen. So, they wound up not fighting each other, but every game in one direction is less experience in the other direction. And then you start to fight it a little bit internally, right? Are you getting ahead? Are you falling behind? And it's more than anything, it's a huge distraction. And after a year or two of that, he winds up not being qualified. So he only has Blues to sign with, and then they don't have an American League team. The irony there is that we would have easily been able to place him with another organization, and that was our, request in the sense that you can't hold him back. The irony is he went to Boston, and there was no place for him to go, so he just settled in and played. And the anxiety wasn't there. It was limbo. I called it in the article I wrote the equivalent of NHL limbo. And maybe there's a silver lining in that, right? I mean, he certainly took lemons and made lemonade, right? And the following year, the Blues actually were the right spot for him to be because they were very thin in net, and we thought it would fall his way to some degree. Nobody predicted they were going to win the Stanley Cup. They're in last place, but he was going to get his opportunity, and that's all anybody wants.
Mike, we only know Jordan Binnington from afar, right? We don't get to know him on the same personal level that you do, but we have had the pleasure of being able to speak with him on numerous occasions, whether that be just short small talk or in a longer form interview. And for me, I've been here in St. Louis basically the entirety of his career now. We've been able to see on the outside looking in some real changes in how Jordan Binnington just on a day-to-day basis operates, but you get more of the inside picture on that. Can you take us through Jordan Binnington's personal, emotional, like off of the ice development from the person that you knew 10 years ago to who he is today?
There's not a great deal of difference in those two, from over 10 years. This is what you mature, right? As you move through your early 20s and you have your experiences and you take the good from them and you learn from the missteps. And Jordan, he fought his way into the NHL. He deserves everything he gets because of the hurdles he overcame. Now, once you're there as a goalie, you try to be a leader, but you have to learn how to lead in what is a negative position, right? Like goals go in every night. Some nights you're going to get yanked. I call it, you have to be passively aggressive. Everything has to happen in front of you, and then you react. You're not the quarterback. You don't put the ball in play like a pitcher. You're reacting to everything that's happening in front of you. And, to be that leader, it's the old saying, right? Less is more. And you can't try to be a leader. You just have to be consistent. Your leadership is your consistency. And I think over time, Jordan, has a big personality and he tries to, be a motivator within his team. And as a goalie, you just have to moderate that. You're not a third line guy. You're not the captain of the team. You don't get to have a 2-minute break after every shift. Or 90 seconds after every shift to regroup. So I would say that it isn't a change in personality. It is a more mature player, as we would expect, and somebody who understands, the limitations of playing goal and the import of making the save that you highlighted, and knowing that is a big piece of his leadership. And then away from the ice, it was interesting this summer or last spring he played in the World Championships for Canada, and the common thread was from other clients that we have or other people that we know on the team is that what a great guy he is. He's really funny. He's completely different than what we thought he was like because that's what you see as the competitor and what you see as a teammate oftentimes can be completely different. And, so I think, Jordan is just rounded into, an excellent NHL goaltender. It doesn't go he's a real player, right? You're a real dude. You're a real player. There's no more superlatives needed. You're in the group and, he's highly respected. And he's always been a talented kid. He's always had, that I won't say emotion, but that drive to succeed. He's always understood that, you have to learn from it's not always going to be your day. And, I think, we've had lots of conversations about that, just my own experiences, and sometimes they drone on. But, I always use this all often. It was, I called home, early in my career complaining about whatever I was complaining about, and my dad cut me off within 15 seconds, and he just said, Mike, the other guy gets paid too. You don't always get to win. And that was the end of the conversation. And I think that's goaltending. Just sometimes not your day. And, tomorrow, you regroup. And that's the hallmark of being a starter in the NHL. You have to forget tomorrow, dig in on the next day. And when things go south, then you really have to, dig in and retreat and just do your thing and, be supportive. And, Jordan does all those things. He can be a different goalie at a different spot. The team's on a roll. If the team is struggling, he's always searching to say the right thing, to be the right example. And, that's a starter in the NHL.
Mike, from a franchise perspective, you spent 6 seasons with the Blues, and now Jordan Binnington surpasses you. I went down a rabbit hole right before Binnington surpassed you in that wins, and from 79 to 99, the Blues had Mike Liut, Curtis Joseph, and Grant Fuhr. And then from 2000 until 2018, I think the Blues went through like 35 different goaltenders, if my math is correct on this one. From somebody who was kind of cemented as that number one, what does it mean for this organization for the last 6 years to see the same guy every single game?
If you can duplicate it or replicate and have that, it's consistency, right? So the guys step on the ice and they know what's behind them. And it was my second year as a pro. Floyd Smith was coach. I was in Cincinnati the year before I came to St. Louis, and I was a little erratic, and he pulled me in the office and he wanted to talk to me about Terry Sawchuk, who was venerable, one of the greats of all time, and his example and his point was when he said, when I turn around and I look over my shoulder to start the game and I see Yuki back there, I know everything's under control. And that's what you get if you have with somebody like Jordan. That's what I always try to be from that moment on is call it the stabilizer or the ballast or whatever you want, but you've got to come with the same game, as many games as you can. And if you have that guy, then the players know what to expect. There's no surprises. There's no, gut punch. They know if you make a mistake, you'll be there in the third period. It's that level of consistency that allows them to take a little bit of a risk, right? To push the envelope when they're down, or, to be confident in shutting the game off when they're up and late in the third period. And that's consistency, right? It always comes back to that in whatever you're doing in life, but we see it play out when it's, when in that position. That is the essence of being a goaltender.
Mike Liut held the Blues record for the most wins by a goalie in franchise history for nearly 40 years until this year. Jordan Binnington broke his agent's former record. Mike, we appreciate the time, man. Thanks so much for joining us today. I know it's a travel day for you, so we appreciate you fitting us in prior to that. All the best to you and yours. We wish you all the best, and we'll talk with you again soon.
All right, guys. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. It's Mike Liut joining us here on BK and Ferrario. Appreciate his time as always. If you missed any of our conversation with him, check it out on the podcast page, 101ESPN.com, and the free 101 ESPN app is where you go to find it. It's all presented by
Dobbs Tire and Auto Centers.
Alex, I do want to pass along a little bit of news for the listeners prior to the junk drawer on the other side. There was a little bit of news that we passed along earlier that Luther Burden was going to be entering the NFL draft. He has now announced that he is expected to skip Missouri's bowl game. No surprise here.
Come
on. Quote, I leave with an appreciation for my coaches, my teammates, and my time here. I will always love Missouri forever.
Look, do you want to be the 19th best prospect or the 15th best prospect? Go play the bowl game. Hell yeah, T-Bone.
Yeah.
There's also a...
Benner didn't give up on their team.
Yeah.
Good point.
He never gave up.
There's also a point or a post that's been put out there on why Matt Eberflus met with the media hours prior to being fired on Friday. Kevin Warren, the CEO, I think is what his title is technically, with the Chicago Bears, explained this today in their press conference. Quote, in retrospect, could we have done it better? Absolutely. And I'll be the first to raise my hand about that. But during his press conference, even a couple hours later, we had not reached a decision.
What?
On the flip side of it, is that something that was important to us, that once we reached the decision, we wanted to make sure to talk about Matt and to talk about how he can have respect and be able to call his family? Yes. It happens around the league a lot where a head coach will find out he's terminated and he finds out before he's told from the organization. That is something that we promised we were not going to do. So, in retrospect, could we have done it better? Yes, but we were trying to be respectful. We didn't know that our decision when we had started the press conference, and then we did. Okay.
So the press conference went poorly enough to get him fired. That's what I'm learning.
Or they just needed to be honest with themselves for 5 seconds. Last thing here, Alex. ESPN.com just put out a piece on where Miller Moss could end up next. Now, if you're not familiar with the gentleman, he's a senior quarterback that played at USC. If you watched their opening night game this year, he was the guy that looked like an all everything, all worlds, all American type of a performer. And then things went a little sideways for them at USC. The former USC starting quarterback has officially entered the transfer portal. I think he's going to be one of the top targets in the portal for everybody. He should be a top target for the University of Missouri. ESPN.com put together 5 programs, Alex, that would be a good fit for Miller Moss.
Mizzou wasn't on there. Okay, coming up next.
Louisville, Auburn, Boston College. Makes sense. Bill O'Brien got the success of developing quarterbacks at the NFL level. I could see that. Michigan. Makes all the sense in the world. They desperately need a quarterback. And the University of Missouri. Missouri set to return veteran Drew Pine. He has played in 6 games this season, threw for 143 yards and 3 touchdowns against Oklahoma. Interesting they don't mention his other performances. He expects to have 2 more seasons of eligibility, but Missouri will likely have to transfer to boost their room and their chances to contend in 2025. Mizzou's got to go get a guy like this.
Yeah, go get
You're going to go to the portal. Don't go get some, young player that has no success at this level. You've got young guys. Sam Horn's coming back. You've got Drew Pine. You've got a freshman coming in that's a 5-star recruit. You've got talent at the position. Go get somebody that's proven. Miller Moss is that kind of guy. Connor Wigman from Texas A&M, that kind of a guy. Those are the types of players that Mizzou should be targeting in the portal this offseason.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately for Drink, is going to be judged off of one thing. Are you able to bring in the quarterback? Because that's what's, for a lack of a better word, because I think Brady Cook has been fine, but that's what the team's been missing over the last couple of years. The dude that breaks a game open.
Can I address one thing about Matt Zollers? Because I've seen so many texts and tweets and everything. Hey, Mizzou has a 5-star quarterback coming in. Guys, they don't need to go to the portal. Go ahead and look up right now the best seasons in recent years by true freshman quarterbacks. Spend the next 30 minutes trying to search for them. And look at the guys that you think were unbelievable and started 12 games for their season. I'll keep waiting because the odds are you're not going to find more than 2 or 3 of them. The odds of guys coming in to college football as true freshman quarterbacks and succeeding right away and starting for their respective teams, almost non-existent. It's incredibly rare. So it's not just Mizzou. I would be saying this if it was any team in the country that had a true freshman 5-star quarterback coming in. Go get a proven guy. Expect that freshman to start the following season. Get them at least a year on campus before you turn everything over to them. Mizzou has got to be in the portal this offseason for a big-time quarterback target. That's where you are as a program. You got to keep this thing going. You can't just trust that your young guy is going to be the next great thing.
Yep.
That's not the way to approach this, in my opinion. And I don't think it's the way they will approach it. I believe that they will be aggressive in the portal.
Yeah.
All right, he's Alex. That's T-Bone. I'm BK. The Junk Chore is coming up next here on 101 ESPN. With Alex Ferrario and Tanner Hendrickson, I'm Brandon Kiley. You've got BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. It is time for the junk drawer, and in about 5 minutes or so, we'll talk about Dylan Holloway quietly putting together exactly the kind of season that the Blues were looking for. All right, Alex, I want to talk a little bit about rivalries in college football. Because over this past weekend, we saw some beauties. And it felt like, I think 4 or 5 of them, we got to see somebody try to plant the flag in the center of the field.
I love it.
The other team gets a little upset about it. There's some pushing, some shoving. It's all fake fighting. We all know that. Until the Ohio State versus Michigan game happened.
Well,
it no longer was fake fighting, and now suddenly people are getting pepper sprayed out here. Because of it. Did you see this?
Yeah.
Because of everything that's taken place on the field. Guys, I just want it to be known.
no more fighting.
Setting aside the pepper spray stuff, I loved all of it. I loved it.
You didn't love the pepper spray?
College football was back for a weekend. Everything that I love about college football is this. It's the history, right? It's teams legitimately disliking one another because they've gone up against each other as universities for 100 years. They've got real shared history against one another. And when kids grow up in one of those two states, they grow up hating that team. That's what it was like for me growing up on the Kansas City side of the state line for Missouri against Kansas. If you grew up on this side of the state, it was Missouri versus Illinois, right? Like there is real history between those respective schools. Missouri doesn't really have that in the SEC any longer. You play Arkansas and you dislike Arkansas, sure, but the history isn't there the same way. So this weekend, to be able to see that on the field, despite all of the realignment that's taking place over the years, everybody letting money get in the way of all of this history, it's nice to see that there is still something that pulls the history back with college football and reminds us of what the sport once was, even if it is changing year over year.
If you want to find out how to get more people fans of your sport, you need more rivalries. Like, to that degree, you need more... Maybe not the pepper spray, but you need the hatred
get rid of that,
towards each other. And, like, honestly, I was kind of finding myself thinking, it's like, man, what are they getting so upset about? About planting the flag in the field. Like, I get it, defend your turf and stuff, but...
Win your damn football game at home.
I was going to say, if you're Ohio State...
you, Ryan Day.
If you're Ohio State...
My favorite thing over the weekend was Ryan Day. As it's all happening, a player passes it by him, and he says, what happened? It's like, dude, if there is one video that is 3 seconds long that can sum up Ryan Day's experience at Ohio State, it is him looking at a player and saying, what happened? Isn't that your job, boss?
No.
To prevent this from happening?
No, not at all. I just like, if you're Ohio State fans and you're going to get into a fist fight with Michigan because they planted the flag on our field, then don't lose the football game.
I like it.
It is amazing how I think it was 4 teams that were home teams that lost and then had to go defend their home logo because it was Florida State had it, Arizona State had it.
I love the Arizona State with the Triton and they just that one was good.
Yeah, the Michigan-Ohio State game, and I think there was one more. I don't remember who it was, but...
There was one more. I can't think of it right now, but there was another one that happened over
man,
there.
I love it. It makes me jealous a little bit, you know? Because as an Illinois fan, Mizzou's so scared of us that they won't play us at the end of the year for a rivalry game. Not at the end of the year.
Illinois got out of the rivalry because you got
backed out of it. No, that can't be true.
No.
Look at the history of the money.
It literally is.
I assure you,
I don't want to get
true.
political or anything. That's what they call fake news right there. I, meanwhile, would like to see that because Illinois doesn't have there's teams that they don't like and they have the made up cool little trophies, but there's nobody they just despise in football. Like Northwestern, it's like the Missouri-Arkansas. It's a made up rivalry. Illinois and Indiana didn't even play this year.
North Carolina, NC State is the other one.
That was it. Thank you.
Yep.
But Illinois doesn't have that. There's not one team in the Big Ten in football that they hate. Basketball, they've got that. They hate Indiana.
Mizzou, Arkansas, by the way, real rivalry in basketball.
Yeah.
Football, it
feels fake, right?
But on the basketball side of things, it's become very real, especially after the Trevon Brazil stuff. There was all of that. Prior to that, you go back to the coaching. There's some history there, but on the football side of things,
if anybody should back out of the basketball rivalry between Mizzou and Illinois.
All right, listen, you've had a couple of good years. Congratulations.
There was
prior
a 5-year stretch where Illinois couldn't buy a victory.
Smacked up and down the court year after year.
Yeah,
get out of here.
You had to
buy an OnlyFans subscription for that one, T-Bone.
I am curious real quick before we get out of here and talk about Dylan Holloway.
Dude, you can't go to something else after you just said that. Ash was getting slapped repeatedly.
It's true. Syracuse beat Miami at home, and Syracuse's fans, after a 9-3 season, rushed the field. How'd you feel about that one?
Well, they beat a top 25 team. Yeah.
The criteria was you beat a ranked opponent.
My favorite thing was the Syracuse head coach at the end going, "Hey, Dabo, you're welcome. We got you into the championship game."
That I think it was Kara looked over at me, my wife, and she said, "They won 9 games. Why are they so happy?"
They're not ranked, man.
You
It's
beat
allowed.
a ranked opponent.
Yeah.
It's allowed.
I told her
It's a rivalry.
I said
somehow.
it's Syracuse. They just beat Miami at home. Forget everything else.
Yeah.
You get to rush the field.
You got nothing else to worry
acceptable.
about. You got to get out there and enjoy it.
Fun weekend in college football.
By the way, how
Just
about
don't bring the pepper spray.
Kyle McCord taking down a top 25 team. Meanwhile, Will Howard.
Who could have seen
What
that
happened?
coming? We all predicted it in the offseason where we said, Will Howard, that's your answer? Also, Cam Ward, if you wanted to win, you should have gone somewhere other than Miami. You should have known this was happening.
Like Illinois.
You just fight to keep your quarterback, all right? Relax. Let the big boys worry about
Mizzou's
Cam
coming to
Ward.
get the quarterback.
With Alex and T-Bone on BK, Dylan
Omar,
Holloway
don't you
quietly
yell it.
putting together exactly the kind of season that the Blues were looking for. We'll talk about it next year on 101 ESPN. Hey, it's BK. It's time to start on those New Year's resolutions a little early. The place to do so is with Victory Men's Health because they can unlock your inner champion, whether it's weight loss goals that you're trying to meet. You want to fix those low testosterone symptoms? The place to do that is at Victory Men's Health. Or if you've got erectile dysfunction issues that you're dealing with as well, they can potentially help you out. Check them out today. They have 4 great locations across the St. Louis area, and you can see them online to see everything that they have to offer at victorymenshealth.com. That's victorymenshealth.com. If you want to check out any of the services that are available for you, that is the place to do so. Booking your appointment is incredibly simple. You put in your name, email, phone number, tell them BK with 101 ESPN sent you, and tell them what unlocking your inner champion looks like. Do you have the same energy that you did 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago? If the answer is no, if you feel like you're not getting the same out of your workouts, for example, that could be a result of low testosterone. They'll check your levels over there. You'll see exactly where you're at. There is a wide range within the levels of testosterone. If you're in that lower range of normal, they can help you get back up to that peak performance at Victory Men's Health. Check them out today. It's victorymenshealth.com. That's victorymenshealth.com. Dylan Holloway has been exactly what the doctor ordered for the St. Louis Blues. With Alex and T-Bone on BK, we've spent a lot of time talking about Philip Broberg, what he's added to the lineup. We've talked about what the Blues are missing when Booch or Thomas are out of the lineup. We haven't done a lot of talking about Dylan Holloway, who has 3 goals in his past 2 games. He's now up to 7 goals on the season for St. Louis. Alex, Dylan Holloway's on pace for 23 goals, 43 points, and maybe most importantly, a plus 16 while on the ice this year. Here's the entire list of Blues players over the last 15 years. It's pretty good hockey that the Blues have played over the last 15 years for the most part. To post at least 20 goals in a season with a plus 15 or better at the end of the year at his age, right? So at Holloway's age or younger, 20 goals plus 15 or better. Score a bunch.
Good defensive.
Not on the ice for a bunch of goals against.
Or great line changes.
Yeah, true. Robert Thomas did this in 2021. Vladimir Tarasenko did it in 2013 and in 2014. Jaden Schwartz also did it in 2013. And David Perron did it in 2011. That is the end of your list. So what Dylan Holloway is on pace to do this year, only 4 Blues have done it at his age over the last 15 seasons. Alex, what do you make? What are we seeing right now out of Dylan Holloway, and has he opened your eyes to what he could potentially be?
Yeah, because I thought he was a middle 6 forward, and I believe we had 2 different Edmonton beat writers that told us he's a middle 6 forward. I think this guy is a top 6 forward. I don't think he's a top line forward. I don't think he's a game breaker. I don't think he's a 40-goal scorer. But you said the comp. I think he's exactly Jaden Schwartz. Now, Schwartz was better in terms of good luck getting the puck away from me, because when he would have it in the corners, he was one of the best in the NHL. He was fast. I think Dylan Holloway's got a better shot. Here's where this is the part that gets me. Edmonton bleeped up. We all know that, right? Like, they missed out on Broberg and Holloway. The 2 guys that they opted to bring in so that they moved on from Dylan Holloway, Jeff Skinner and Victor Arvidsson. Those 2 players are combined 13 points. Dylan Holloway is at 13 points, has more goals than them, and is a better plus-minus than them. This is a core piece of your team moving forward. And we said the same thing with Broberg, and I think a lot of people were just skeptical with Holloway because, he's not a 6'4" defenseman. He doesn't fill a void that the Blues needed. This is a guy that just kind of fills in a closet full of middle 6 forwards.
I remember we talked about it during this whole stretch, right, where they had the offer sheets out, but we didn't have any closure on what was going to happen. We said at the time, hey, Broberg's the real prize here, but Holloway would be a good piece, but if you only get him, it would feel really
disappointing.
Yeah,
and I don't. He's not at the same level as Broberg still, because I think Broberg filled a void that you needed to fill if you want to compete. But Dylan Holloway has a shot to give you 25 goals in a season, and that's Jaden Schwartz, in my opinion.
Have you seen any of his next-gen stats for what he's been able to do with the shot this year?
A little bit.
Dude, they're amazing. If you're looking at 80 to 90 mile per hour shots, he has 11 of them on the season, which is 92nd percentile in the NHL. If you're looking for 70 to 80 mile per hour shots so far this year, he's had 24 of them. The average player in the NHL has 10 of them. That is good for the 98th percentile as well in the NHL. He shoots the hell out of the puck, dude. And these are volume statistics. So he's doing this while averaging, 14 minutes a night?
Yeah.
So he's putting the puck on net regularly, and when he does it, it's coming at some crazy good velocity. He's just a better overall player than I gave him credit for.
And put that shot into his skating speed, which is in the 88th percentile in terms of speed bursts over 20 miles an hour, and then just look at where he's scoring goals. We do this with Jake Neighbors a lot of the net front presence. He's also scoring goals around the high danger area. This isn't a guy that's getting lucky with shots from the outside that are just finding their way into the back of the net.
4 of them have been from the crease.
Yeah, he's going to the front of the net. So you're telling me that I've got a 23-year-old 6'1" forward who is faster than most players on your team, has an excellent shot, and has the ability to generate offense in the danger zone in terms of the crease. I mean, that's an all-around player. So that's why, Jaden Schwartz, I think a lot of people view Jaden Schwartz as a top-line player, and he was drafted to be that guy. And as you saw as that season went along, he just filled into the top 6.
Yep.
Dylan Holloway is another perfect example of how you win with pack mentality, because this is a guy that's never going to be a 40-goal scorer. But could you give me 25 goals and 50-plus points? Sure, that's how you win.
It is, as long as you have those game breakers.
You do need the game breaker.
And that's something that the Blues are missing right now. especially when they don't have those three guys on the ice. When you don't have Thomas, Kyrou, and Booch available for you on any given night, you feel that. And you felt that over the weekend without Pavel Buchnevich on the ice. They were searching all game long to find the right pairing partner for Thomas on that top line. Holloway's really good. I like Kyrou. I like Booch. I like Thomas. They're missing one elite-level winger. We've said this all along. That's still what they're missing today. And if you have one more elite-level winger, you have Booch, you have Kyrou, you have Neighbors, you have Holloway. There you go.
Yeah.
There's your top 9 when it comes to what you're going to have wingers long term. Potentially Snuggerud, maybe Bolduc. We'll see what ends up happening around them. But I feel pretty good about those other players that I just mentioned. And now they need to add in one more legit, not just like he can play top line minutes. No. Legit, no doubt about it. Every night will be on your top line, getting the toughest matchups, scoring 30 goals. I don't care about his passing, has an excellent shot, and helps you on the power play. That is the piece that they still remain missing. But right now, if you're putting together the depth chart for 2, 3, 4 years down the road, you're starting to fill things in, and that was the goal for Doug Armstrong.
Yeah, I mean, they would tell you that, yep, we're waiting on Jimmy Snuggerud. And whether you believe Snuggerud's the guy or not the guy, that's at least the shot that they value as the game breaker. You need your Tarasenko. And Curbs and I had talked about this on postgame. I think it was that last homestand where they're doing everything that the Blues did in that 2010, 2011, 12 season, to where they bring in, or they've got all of the young pieces, they bring in the veterans, you're forming an identity as a team. Ken Hitchcock comes in, you become a stingy defensive team with great goaltending, and then guess what? The game breaker stepped in. Tarasenko and Schwartz brought to the team the offense that they were lacking. Yep. That's probably, I would imagine, what this Blues team is hoping for. You've got the Kyrous, the Thomases, the Buchneviches. All three guys can put up 30 goals, potentially 80, 90, 100 points. You still need that game breaker that with one shot changes the outcome of the game. And at least for now, at the college level and the junior or at the AHL level, you've got two guys that have the shot. How does it translate to the NHL? That's what they're waiting for.
Blues off tonight, back in action tomorrow. They begin that West Canada road trip. They are going up to Winnipeg, which I'm sure is beautiful this time of the year. Alex will have your pregame coverage tomorrow right here in your home of the Blues, 101 ESPN, starting at 6 o'clock. In 15 minutes, I want to talk a little bit about Ohio State, what's happening there. Ryan Day, to me, is one of the most fascinating coaches in college football because he's an amazing coach that gets it done at basically every turn until one game. And that one game might be enough to get him fired as the head coach at Ohio State. We'll talk about that in 15 minutes, but next, in or out here on 101 ESPN. 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line for in or out. Guys, in or out? You're starting to believe in the direction that the Cardinals are headed with their minor league system. First, they hired somebody from the Cleveland Guardians to oversee the entire operation. Now they just hired their chief pitching officer, essentially. It's the guy that previously was overseeing the pitching department with the Seattle Mariners. In or out? You're starting to believe in what the Cardinals are doing with their minor leagues. The direction that they're heading.
Okay.
Chaim Bloom overseeing
the
it.
direction in. I'm still like out until I actually see it play out, which might take a little bit of time. And I think a lot of people are that way in terms of how do these younger guys look in terms of development. But as we said earlier, if you want me to be in on this plan you've got in place, start backing it up. And them trying actively to trade Nolan Arenado to get more playing time for some of these players, bringing in all of these eyes to fix their minor league team. For the last 3 seasons, the Cardinals have said they're going to do something and have not done it. They found the loophole. Now they're not finding a loophole. They're backing up what they're saying. So in on the direction.
I will say out for now. Just because I'm still not 100% sure what the direction is. I mean, they're making smart hires, but I would call that modern baseball day hires. So, like, if you want to say that's the direction, so you mean they're kind of modernizing, I guess I would be in. But until I start to see what these guys are actually doing and we're actually saying, hey, Tink Hens, what did he say? Well, we know he learned to really add another mile or two to his fastball because he talked with the guy that just got hired from Seattle. Until that moment comes, I'm out.
I'm in. I think this is, to your point, T-Bone, modern baseball, which is a game that the Cardinals haven't been playing in a really long time. They looked like a modern baseball team 15 years ago, and then the game changed on them, and they had no idea how to adapt. And finally, it appears that they are adapting. Now, is it like 15 years after it should have happened? Yeah, hell yeah, dude. They should have done this. Like 2015 is really like the breaking point between what was baseball and what is baseball. And it left them behind. The Cardinals have been stuck in 2015 since that season. And at the time, that was good enough to win 100 games. And now it's good enough to win 80. And I think that the Cardinals are now doing the things that will be necessary to win 90 games in 2026, 2027. It will not pay off immediately with dividends, but I think down the road it will. I like the hires. I like the direction. We'll see if it works. Got to have the right development. You got to have the right evaluation. Like, there's a bunch of other stuff. And frankly, you got to get super lucky. But if they do, I think they're heading in the right direction. Alex, what do you have for us today for in or out?
Guys, this is a little bit of down the road, but in or out. Jordan Binnington is the next number retired by the Blues.
Should have been Petro, man.
Should have been Petro. Could have had two closer to the same time if Petro and Binnington were on the same team.
Yeah. O'Reilly doesn't get it, right?
No, I don't think so.
He's
Wasn't
only
here
a
long
year
enough.
And a half.
I'll say in.
So the one that I'm questioning, does Alexander Steen get it?
I think the GM thing puts that on hold.
You have to wait until he's done there.
I don't think you put his number up in the rafters
Be
while
kind
his
of awkward.
current act.
Kind of awkward. It'd be real awkward.
I mean, it'd also be awkward like when we fire him and we're like, hey.
Because if you think about it, Chris
it could
Pronger.
go well, and that adds to the legacy.
Yeah.
And now suddenly, like, he's not getting in because they're not retiring the number because he was the GM, but he did help us.
And if you look at the tenure, because like if you go from Chris Pronger up until now, I don't know if there's another number that is worthy of retirement. Like Jay Bouwmeester, I don't know if that gets up there even with the Stanley Cup, because there really weren't many accomplishments with it. So I'm in on this. Like, Steen was the only one that I was questioning. I'm in on this, though. I think Jordan Binnington is that guy that is going to get retired. And frankly, I think he'll get a statue outside the
said, what about
Enterprise.
Perron?
I don't think so, because it was
So
broken up.
herky-jerky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Backus?
I thought about Tarasenko, but he had a weird ending here.
Yeah, and Backus, I think the same thing, had a weird ending here. I'd go Steen before Backus.
Would you retire his number if he's not a Hall of Famer? Because
Binnington?
Yeah, that's the one thing I do wonder. Does that matter? Does he need to be a Hall of Famer? Because he probably won't be.
Yeah, I don't think it matters.
I'm gonna say out. I think he probably gets a statue. I don't know if he'll have his number retired. I think he probably needs another contract after this one to really solidify his spot there, finish out his career here in St. Louis.
I think he gets it retired.
Someone brought up Cujo. I don't think Cujo gets that because it wasn't long enough.
I think if Cujo was happening, it would have happened by now.
Yeah. If Cujo goes into the Hall of Fame, then maybe, but I don't think it was long enough. Kachuk is the one that people brought up, but
Matthew. Oh, wait.
No, he's in Florida.
That one will be after.
Brady.
Oh, after Florida. Yeah. Oh, Brady. Okay, I'm in.
They'll actually do Brady and
You can't retire Big Waltz because you got to leave the 7 open for Brady.
I like that.
I actually do really like that the Blues are. They don't do this a lot.
Yeah.
It has to be
specific.
It's a very special thing if you get your number.
But if you think
that's
about
why I asked if he had to be a Hall of Famer to get it.
No, because I mean they've got a couple of guys up there that aren't Hall of Famers, but like if you're Binnington, I think you have to finish your career here. Like if you don't, I wonder if then maybe not. But I mean Pronger didn't finish his career here, but you get the Hall of Fame side of it. The thing with Binner is by the end of this contract, whether he continues to play or not, his number is going to be sitting at like 215 in wins, and that's going to be pretty big for the Blues.
All right, T-Bone, what do you got?
Guys, in or out, Nolan Arenado will be the only Major League contract traded off the Cardinals roster.
Out. They're going to trade at least a pitcher.
Yeah, I don't know which one. I think it's Steven Matz.
Michaelis, Helsley. They're going to trade, I think, potentially multiple pitchers, but I'm definitely out on this.
Yeah, I'm out as well. I think it's going to be Steven Matz.
I'm out because I think it's Matz as well. I think there's some value there that some team may take on his contract.
Matz goes on to win a Cy Young for the next team.
With the Dodgers.
Oh, yeah. Beautiful.
Makes sense. Matz and Arenado would make a ton of sense for the Dodgers.
How poetic would it be that, like, Matz, who couldn't stay healthy in St. Louis, goes to the Dodgers and pitches 30 games for him?
And then Arenado, is an MVP.
He'll pitch 30 games as a reliever. That's what will happen. Yeah. If he goes to the Dodgers, he's not going to start for them.
He's like their closer in October.
Yeah, exactly.
But he'll get a couple of starts when all of their 17 guys in the rotation are hurt.
There is nothing like October. The leaves change and football's back and a former Cardinals kicking ass in the playoffs.
All right, 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line from the 314. Guys, in or out, Dalibor Dvorsky replaces Oscar Sundquist as a third-line Blues center before the Winter Classic. Did you say, Alex, that he's playing well right now?
He's got 10 points in 11 games, was a +7 for the Thunderbirds in the month of November. 5 goals and 5 assists. I'm out on this. It's not going to be the Winter Classic. Post-trade deadline, it will, but not Winter Classic. If you keep this pace up, I mean, he's going to have to get a shot at some point, but it's not going to be by the Winter Classic.
Yeah, I'm out on that because of the Winter Classic thing. That's too early. I think you want to see him sustain this for almost like a month, 2 months.
Yeah.
That way you really say, okay, he's really deserving
You
of that
want November for 2 more months, and that's going to take you to February, and by then you're talking trade deadline.
Yeah. 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. Guys, in or out, the Chiefs will be beat before the AFC Championship game this year.
Out. I don't care how bad they are in the regular season. I've got the ultimate switch to flip on when it comes to the playoffs. It's Mahomes and Kelsey. So I'm out on this. They'll be healthier by then. I think I saw that Hollywood Brown is close to returning.
16 or 17.
It's another weapon for them. They already got Pacheco back, and I know it wasn't pretty, but it was a slow return. I'm out on this. I think their biggest villain is going to be the Buffalo Bills.
This is a huge game next week, dude. Sunday at home, night game against the Chargers. If they win that one, I think they will have the 1 seed because there's only likely one more loss on their schedule, and that's potentially Wednesday, Christmas Day. I've said this all year long. If they were undefeated going into that one, I would still potentially pick them to lose. Meanwhile, the Bills have a tough finish to the schedule. They've got a couple of road games coming up against the Rams and Detroit, more importantly. I think if the Chiefs win this weekend, they will have the number 1 seed, in which case you have to win 1 game to get to the AFC Championship game. That's why I bring that up. And I do not think they will lose that game, regardless of who they go up against. So I'm going to say out. I think they will get to the AFC Championship game. I don't know what happens from there, though.
Yeah, I'm out as well because I think the 2 teams that caused the most havoc for them, and maybe the Chargers become the third, we'll see this weekend. But I think it's Pittsburgh and Buffalo, and right now you're not going to see them before you get to the championship game, so I'm out.
All right, 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. Coming up next, Ohio State is in a very tricky spot, Alex. They could win the national championship this year. Very much in play. They also just lost again for the 4th consecutive time against their hated rival in Michigan. And if you can't beat this Michigan team, how can you ever assume that Ryan Day is going to beat any Michigan team? That's the question that they're asking right now. What does it mean for his future? And what does it mean for coaches that are potentially going to take bigger jobs this offseason? Might leave you questioning if that's the right move. We'll talk about that next year on 101 ESPN.
Alex Ferrario with you and with my insurance agent, Tracy Bibb, her and her team at Allstate, taking care of you and your family when it comes to your car and home insurance. And Tracy, the winter weather is here. I know people were dealing with it over the weekend, and talk a little bit about why they need to call you to make sure their car insurance is taken care of.
Yeah, definitely important to give us a call right now because there are quite a few people out there on the road traveling around without insurance. The last thing you want is them to hit you. So good idea to call us and make sure we have you insured properly so that you are covered and something like that. Also, we have a new auto product that has great new rates, especially if you have young drivers in the home. So perfect time to give us a call. Let's see what we can do with your insurance.
Give Tracy a call today. It is super simple. She'll walk you through the free non-committal quote, 314-328-4260. Call Tracy today. It's no fib, but you're always in great hands with the Bib. Tracy, thank you so much.
Thanks so much. Go Blues.
Tanner Hendrickson here, the Sports Center update brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling. Blues will be back in action tomorrow night as they visit the Winnipeg Jets. We'll have pregame coverage starting at 6 o'clock with Alex Ferrario and Joey Vitale. Then Joey will join Chris Carver for Puck Drop at 7. News out of college football. Luther Burden announces that he will declare for the NFL draft and will skip out on the Missouri Tigers' upcoming bowl game. And tonight here on 101 ESPN, Monday Night Football for you as well. A pregame coverage starting at 6:30 as the Broncos take on the Browns. The Sports Update is brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, an independent American Standard heating and air conditioning dealer.
With Alex and T-Bone on BK, so Ohio State's in a really tricky spot right now. Ryan Day has lost 4 consecutive games against Michigan. He's only won one of them. It was in 2019. He probably has to win a national title, Alex, to avoid being on the hot seat.
Because he can't beat Michigan?
Yeah, dude. Those are the stakes when you are the head coach at Ohio State.
Dude's been double-digit wins for 4 straight seasons, and it's because he can't beat Michigan.
Yep. it's a really tough spot to be as a head coach, where your expectations are so incredibly high that if you have to first beat Michigan and then win the Big Ten championship and then hopefully get to the national title game. And if you reach all three of those, you've met your goals, but you did not exceed them. You simply met them. Because to exceed them, the only thing you can do is to win a national championship. It's life as the head coach at Ohio State. It's life as the head coach at Alabama. That's life as the head coach at Georgia. And if you don't do those things, and it's over. My question to you, Alex, twofold. One, what do you do if you're Ohio State? Because moving on from Ryan Day sounds great in theory until you have to then go out and get a new head coach and figure out who that guy is. I don't know who the obvious candidate is right now. Mike Vrabel, maybe, but I've never seen him do this at this level. Is he going to be interested in the NIL side of things? I have no idea.
Do I want to take that volatility of if I can't beat Michigan and I'm going to be out of a job once again?
If you're Vrabel, is that what you want to do, or are you waiting for another opportunity in the NFL?
Hell yeah.
What do you do if you're Ohio State?
I mean, if I'm Ohio State, the grass isn't always greener on the other side of the fence. I stick with it. Like, yeah, I get that you keep losing to Michigan and you need to get a national championship, but do you really want to go to the life that's not getting to 10, 11 and wins? And look, Ohio State, you're still going to be able to recruit well. You're going to be able to bring those in. But, man, if I'm going to be searching for the next Ryan Day for the next however many years to get me back to 11-2 and 10-2, I don't want to deal with that. So I would stick with Ryan Day in that position because I don't know how many other guys are out there that make my team better.
That's what I would do. I would stick with Ryan Day. I think it's blasphemy that it's even a conversation. I thought it was crazy that Penn State was talking about James Franklin potentially being gone. Why? Because he couldn't beat Ohio State. So I find it ridiculous because you're right. The grass is not always greener on the other side. And look, this is a different scenario because it was the coach basically ran away because there was an investigation going on. Look at Michigan, right? Harbaugh originally had struggles with Ohio State. There was a little buzz of, hey, should we move on? Guess what? Stuck through it, finds a way, ends up beating the crap out of Ohio State and Ryan Day, winning a national championship, leaves, and guess what? You didn't have the guy internally, didn't see anybody that was on the outside that you say, hey, let's bring in somebody to really take over this machine. Look, man, he went 6-6 or 7-5 this year. You would think that he was basically handed the keys to the castle from Harbaugh and would think, oh, well, he can take off and run with this. No, man, it ain't that easy, and it's not that simple. And that's why if I'm Ohio State, you know what? He didn't beat Michigan. You know what? We're in the playoff. We've got a chance at a national championship. It's not going to be easy to find someone that can just take over what Ryan Day's doing and make it better.
This is what Ryan Day has finished in the college football playoff final rankings year after year. 2, 3, 6, 4, 7. That's his entire tenure as a head coach at Ohio State University. 2, 3, 6, 4, 7. And he might get fired this year. I'm with you guys. I would not move on either. But if I'm him, I'm looking at this and wondering, like, is there an escape hatch somewhere? I don't know if there is, but this has become so overwhelming. It reminds me of the Frank Haith situation at Missouri. This is more than a decade ago now. But Frank Haith was likely to get fired if he had another down season. And he said, you know what? I'm going to Tulsa. I'm going to go take the job there. It's not worth me sticking here. I have no real long-term opportunities that exist in Missouri. I'm going to go get another long-term contract to make my guaranteed money at the University of Tulsa. It's different. I don't think Ryan Day would have to go that far down on the pecking order, but could he, if the Notre Dame job comes open, if Freeman ends up, let's say he becomes the next head coach for the Chicago Bears, which was reported he's a candidate for that over the weekend. If I'm Notre Dame, I'm calling Ryan Day.
Yeah.
He's a good coach, man. I'm certain that he can, at a minimum, be a really good coach for my program. And at Notre Dame, that might be enough to get me to the college football playoff on a regular basis. That's pretty much what their aspirations are.
And I don't need to worry about the volatility of if I can't beat one team, I'm going to be out of a job after 11 wins.
That's a better job for Ryan Day. And this gets us to the offseason where if I'm a head coach currently, in a good situation, but maybe not at a blue blood. So I'm thinking of guys like Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss, or frankly, Eli Drinkwitz at the University of Missouri, where I know that at my current program, I can recruit well enough that I can make a college football playoff. It's not guaranteed for me every year, but I can do it if I hit on the right kids on the right season, and I get the right schedule to be able to do so, and a couple of breaks go my way. I'm getting paid a good amount of money. I've got investment from my boosters. I'm not lacking the funds that I need to be able to go put out a requisite amount of talent on the field every week. If I've got all that stuff in place and I know, okay, my expectations are to win 8 or 9 games every year and to hopefully have a ceiling that is there somewhere down the road. Kiffin and Drink, just as examples of this, both have that currently at Ole Miss and at Mizzou. I don't think, and maybe this says more about me than it does about anything else, but for me, I'm not taking a job like Ohio State. I'm not taking a job like Alabama. The expectations are so outlandish that I know I'm taking that job to be fired. Now, you know you can win a national championship there. That's also on the table. So the upside is significant. But if you get to the college football playoff and you lose in the second round, guess what? Disappointing. That's what that's met with. It's not met with statue, like the greatest thing to ever happen to this university. No, man, you were a disappointment for doing that for this university, because that's who Ryan Day is right now. He does that almost every year, and it's a disappointment with what he's been able to do thus far. I think things have changed so much in college football. I'm not sure coaching at a big blue blood program has the same appeal as it once did. I think this happened already in college basketball. I think it's happening right now in college football.
Yeah. I mean, if I'm any of those coaches, I'm going to stick with job security. And what's job security? I go out there and have a double-digit win season. I recruit well, and I'm good. I don't have to worry about it. Like Eli Drinkwitz, people might be disappointed, but it's not like anybody's calling for his head right now in Mizzou. No. Dude's like, go run it back next year. Meanwhile, if you're in Ohio State or one of those blue blood programs, you're like done, like donezo, because you lost one game.
Yeah, if you win 9 games at Ohio State,
terrible.
If you're not fired, the next year you enter the season, and every piece that is written about coaches on the hot seat, your name will be prominently featured.
So as sexy as it is to be like the Nick Saban of a big program and like everybody loves you, you're God in that city, that state, I don't care. I'm going job security. And job security is where like 10 wins, 9 wins is a success.
I will be curious, like if... I'm going to use DeBoer as the example here because he just took over of Alabama. Like, what you guys are all saying is 100% right, fair, everything of like, man, that is a lot of pressure. What I think will become interesting is, okay, so there is if I take this job, maybe I don't end up working out. But I think if you're DeBoer, he'll land back on his feet with like a Power 5 school again. Like, that's where I can see where if you're a head coach and you look at this, like Drink, for example, I don't think he would do it, but if he did, you can look at it and go, okay, I now have a shot to go win national championships. If it doesn't work, I get fired, and then I probably land back on my feet at another Power 5 school. Because I think that's what you would see is, oh, he tried it. Well, he wasn't ready for it. But he can get us, like Ole Miss, for example. He could come in and get us to the 9, 10 wins that's necessary. So I do wonder if there will be some of the, okay, I'll chase after my national championship aspirations, see if I can get there. You know what? If it doesn't go well, then I can probably end up back at another Power 5 school with the expectations of 9 wins, 10 wins, hopefully make the playoff once every 4 years.
We saw this at the college level in basketball, right? The up-and-coming coaches at the time were Brad Stevens at Butler and Shaka Smart at, where was it, VCU at the time. Yeah. Brad Stevens decided to stay and wait out the perfect job. Not just a good one, the perfect job. Shaka took the job at Texas. It was a disaster, an absolute disaster. To your point, he did get another job. He ended up going back to Marquette, and then it's worked out for him since he took over that job. Brad Stevens went to the Boston Celtics, so he just got out of college basketball entirely. But
maybe that's the key.
I think we are seeing now, like you see what happens with Mike Norvell down at Florida State, who chased that opportunity at the big time power program. You see what is happening right now at Ohio State, and what is happening at Kalen DeBoer, who's getting a lot of criticisms among Alabama fans. I'm just not sure it's all it's cracked up to be. Somebody on the text line said, guys, what about the money? The money is why you go get these jobs. Yeah, Eli Drinkwitz is making $9 million, as is Lane Kiffin. You know what the difference is between what Steve Sarkisian is making right now at Texas and what Eli Drinkwitz is making at Missouri? $1 million. Oh. Is that enough? Is that enough to make up for the criticism, the constant exhaustion that takes place? I don't know, man.
I'll take the $9 million that I know I'm getting every single year.
And the fact that if I win here, I'm a hero, and I'm getting a statue, and they might rename the stadium for me. If I win there, I'm one of many. That's the difference to me. And there was once a point in time where that maybe didn't have the same draw, because I don't think you could have made it to the previous version of the college football playoff at Mizzou or at Ole Miss. It would have been incredibly difficult to do so. Now it's easier to make the college football playoff than it is to win what used to be your division in the SEC. So, I mean, you might get 4 SEC teams this year in. That might be the common theme, is getting 4 to 5 Big Ten or SEC teams Can Mizzou be one of those? Sure. Can Ole Miss be one of those? Absolutely. So if I'm those coaches, and again, I'm just using them as examples for other coaches that might be in similar spots, either now or in the future. What's happened with Ryan Day right now is exactly why I'm not taking a job like that. But I'm also a pansy.
You know what? Worst case scenario, just do the Chip Kelly. You know, I'm going to be fine. You know, I'll take an OC job.
It's not the worst thing in
That's
the
who
world.
I wonder if they would hire, by the way. But I think that would be a disaster.
I don't think so.
That's the worst thing in the world, to get fired, to get paid $10 million for a few years and just, you know.
He doesn't want to
Ed Ogeron didn't
Ohio
come
State.
back.
If you don't want to recruit, you can't have that job. He's T-Bone. That's Alex. I'm BK. Plenty more college football talk throughout the week this week here on BK and Ferrario. We're going to hit the rewind next year on 101 ESPN.
Alex Ferrario with you over the weekend. Of course, that temperature dropped significantly, and you knew that ahead. You need to hope that heater is going to be able to take care of you. And luckily, I use Classic Air Care, who have been making people comfortable since 1926, so I had no concerns. I'm a part of their maintenance agreement. You heard me talk about it before, whether you've got a really old unit or you got a brand new one that you just want to make sure gives you that long lifespan. Classic Air Care, with their maintenance agreement, is taking care of that unit. Twice a year before you flip the heater on for good, when you get this cold weather, or in the hot summer you flip that AC on, they come out twice a year, they check it, they clean it, they fine-tune it, make sure that it's good to go. And here's the best part about it: if you've got issues between those two visits in the year, you call them. Because you're a part of the maintenance agreement, you get priority status in terms of getting one of their technicians out to check the unit, have the problem solved quickly. That's the best part. So make sure you sign up for this maintenance agreement. You could do so online, or you could give them a call. Just tell them Alex Ferrario sent you. That's Classic Air Care and ClassicAirCare.com.
Hey, if you guys missed anything from today's show, be sure to check it out on the podcast page. 101ESPN.com and the free 101 ESPN app is where you go to find it. It's all presented by
Dobbs Tire and Auto Centers.
We're able to catch up with Mike Liut, former Blues goalie, Jordan Binnington's agent, about Jordan Binnington becoming the winningest goalie in the history of the St. Louis Blues franchise. You can check that out on the podcast page. You can find out exactly how Alex lost this month in the Pick'em Challenge as well. It was brutal, man. Thursday afternoon, Alex thought he was going to be fat and happy. Instead, he was just
wasn't
sad
fat nor happy. Skinny.
Sleeping.
No, I wasn't sleeping. I was skinny.
So that was unfortunate for you. We also talked about Brady Cook and Luther Burden. Has since been revealed that Luther Burden is going to forego Mizzou's bowl game. He is going to officially enter this year's NFL draft. He's expected to be a top 20 pick. Alex, how will you remember elevator pitch, the Brady Cook and Luther Burden era at Mizzou?
A successful season and a successful career. And I know it doesn't seem that way because you did not get to the college football playoffs. But, man, if you're Brady Cook, the quote he had postgame is absolutely correct. You try and leave the program in a better spot than what it was when you got there. And when Brady Cook, along with Luther Burden, got to Mizzou and became the guys that they are, the program was in shambles. Like, you weren't sure what it was going to look like. You were just consistently a 6 or 7 win program. And then in back-to-back years, you have the potential to be double-digit wins if you're going to continue or consider that bowl game a win, T-Bone, which I know you don't. But more importantly, back-to-back years where you will be a top 25 program. So that, in my opinion, is a successful career for Brady Cook.
No doubt. And for Luther Burden, I think he was the one that made all of the recruiting possible for Mizzou. Like, he made it cool to go to Mizzou again. I don't think Theo Weiss is at Mizzou if not for Luther Burden. I don't think some of the defensive players that they were able to get via the portal are at Mizzou if not for Luther Burden. Nate Noel, I'm not sure he's at Mizzou if not for Luther Burden. Their success offensively was also determined in large part over the last couple of years by his presence on the football field. Even in games like this past weekend where he had very little impact other than slapping a guy across the head and dropping a pass in the first 3.5 quarters, his presence on the field required defenders to show a little bit of respect that direction. You've got to start to shade your coverages that way. So he's going to be remembered fondly by Mizzou fans everywhere, not just for his presence on the field, but also what he meant for the next era of Mizzou football. He made it cool again to go to Mizzou. So shout out to Luther Burden. I think he's going to have a really good NFL career. He's officially foregoing his final game at Mizzou, final year of eligibility as well at Mizzou to get ahead to the NFL draft. He's Alex. That's T-Bone. I'm BK. Again, if you guys missed anything from today's show, check it out on the podcast page. 101ESPN.com and the free 101 ESPN app is where you go to find it. That is all presented by
Dobbs Tire and Auto Centers.
If you guys want to check us out tomorrow, we'll be back in at 11 a.m. We'll have Jeremy Rutherford in with us for a segment tomorrow. Talk about the St. Louis Blues. The Fast Lane's got you covered next from 2 to 6 right here on 101 ESPN.